Elon Musk had always been known for his bold ideas, his visionary outlook on the future, and his relentless pursuit of innovation. But today, as he stood in front of the Tesla factory in Fremont, California, something felt different. His usual sharp suit was replaced by a tattered jacket, a grimy pair of jeans, and a beanie that hid his signature tousled hair. His face, once a well-known symbol of tech genius and corporate power, was now obscured by a scruffy beard. He looked every bit the part of a homeless man, unrecognizable, even to the employees who walked past him every day. The factory was buzzing with activity, as it always had been. Workers hurried through the production lines, and engineers tapped away at their computers. Tesla's promise of a sustainable future was always in motion, but so was something else: the increasing distance between Elon and the company he had founded. What had once been a place of groundbreaking innovation was now beginning to feel more like a machine, focused on production numbers, deadlines, and profit margins. It was no longer about the people, the ideals, or the mission. As Elon stood there, blending in with the crowd, he felt a sense of deep unease. The thought that had been gnawing at him for weeks had now reached a breaking point. He needed to know the truth. He needed to see if his employees still believed in the dream they had once fought for. He needed to know if they still had the heart of Tesla, the very thing that had made the company a beacon of change in the world. And so, here he was, in disguise, ready to put his company to the test. A few employees passed by without even giving him a second glance. Some walked straight past him, eyes glued to their phones, while others gave him a brief look of indifference. Elon couldn't help but feel a pang of disappointment. These were his people, the ones who had helped build Tesla into what it was. And yet, here they were, treating him like a stranger, just another figure on the factory floor. He took a deep breath, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it. This was the moment that would either make or break everything he had worked for. He had to find out how far the company had strayed from its roots. He had to see if there was still hope left. He began to walk through the factory floor, his steps slow and deliberate. The noise of the machinery and the chatter of the employees blended together into a cacophony of sound, but Elon's mind was laser-focused. As he passed by different workstations, he could feel the tension in the air. There was an undercurrent of frustration, a sense that something was off, but no one was speaking about it. It was as if everyone had just accepted it, accepted that the excitement and passion had been replaced by routine and monotony. As Elon continued his quiet observation, he noticed a group of workers clustered around a table in the break room. One of them, a young woman with short blonde hair, looked up and caught his eye. There was a brief moment of recognition, but then she quickly looked away, uncomfortable, as if she had seen something she wasn't supposed to. Elon felt a twinge of frustration. Why wasn't anyone stopping to talk to him? Was he really that invisible to them? "Excuse me," he muttered, his voice rough from disuse. The woman glanced up again, her expression one of mild confusion. She hesitated for a moment before answering. "Yeah? Can I help you?" Elon forced himself to smile, keeping his voice steady. "I'm just looking for a bit of direction. I'm new around here." She nodded, though her gaze seemed to flicker with skepticism. "You should probably talk to someone on the floor. They can show you where to go. This is the break room, though, so not much going on here." Elon nodded, taking a step back. He could feel the sting of her words more deeply than he expected. Was this how far Tesla had fallen? Were his employees so disconnected from the company's mission that they couldn't even be bothered to engage with a fellow worker? As he walked further into the factory, he began to notice more signs of apathy. Empty coffee cups left carelessly on workstations, employees idly chatting without any urgency or focus, and a general lack of enthusiasm in the air. It wasn't that the employees weren't working, they were. But it was as though something was missing, something intangible but vital. The spark, the fire that had once fueled their efforts. Elon's frustration grew as he continued to observe. He had always believed that the heart of Tesla was its people, that every employee, from the engineers to the assembly line workers, shared in the same vision. But now, he wasn't so sure. He wasn't sure if they were still inspired by the same dream he had once shared with them. And that terrified him. He needed answers. Elon turned a corner and found himself in front of a small group of engineers, discussing something animatedly over a laptop. One of them, a man in his late 30s, looked up as he approached. "Hey there, need help?" the engineer asked, a faint smile on his face. Elon felt a surge of hope. Maybe this one would be different. Maybe this conversation would be the breakthrough he needed. I've been walking around, trying to get a sense of things. How's the work going? Everything seem all right here?" he asked, his voice calm but probing. The engineer paused, looking at him for a moment as if trying to gauge whether he was serious. "Yeah, things are moving along. We've got some delays on the new battery design, but it's nothing we can't handle." He shrugged, seemingly unbothered by the issue at hand. "It's just business as usual. Business as usual." Elon's heart sank. Business as usual. That was exactly what he didn't want to hear. Tesla was never supposed to be business as usual. It was supposed to be a revolution, a movement, something that would change the world. But now, it felt like it was just another corporate machine. A well-oiled machine, sure, but a machine nonetheless. Elon forced a smile, nodding slowly. "All right, thanks. I appreciate it." As he walked away, his mind raced. How could things have gotten to this point? How had his company, his vision, become so routine, so lifeless? He had a sinking feeling in his stomach that it wasn't just the employees. It wasn't just the factory floor. It was something deeper, something systemic. Tesla had become something he hadn't intended it to be. And now, it was time to find out just how deep the problem ran. Elon walked toward the back of the factory, where the real work was happening. The places that weren't as polished, the areas where employees were under pressure, pushing to meet deadlines. He had to see it for himself. He had to know if his company still had a soul. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? This was only the beginning of Elon's journey. What he discovered today was just the surface. But the truth, he knew, was hiding beneath it all, and he was determined to uncover it, no matter the cost. As Elon walked through the Tesla factory, his mind wasn't just focused on the present. It often wasn't. His thoughts drifted back to the beginning, back to when Tesla was nothing more than a dream, a vision fueled by an audacious idea. He thought about how far he had come, how much he had sacrificed, and how the world had changed in ways he had never imagined. Growing up in Pretoria, South Africa, Elon Musk had always been a dreamer. From an early age, he was captivated by technology and science, often taking apart gadgets to see how they worked. His parents, May, a dietitian and model, and Errol, an engineer, had instilled in him a sense of independence, but they weren't always around to encourage his passions. His father, in particular, was a distant figure, often cold and critical. Elon's early life was filled with both academic excellence and a sense of loneliness, traits that would later drive him to the pursuit of greatness, but also leave scars. At the age of 17, Elon left South Africa and moved to Canada, seeking greater opportunities and a new start. He worked his way through the University of Pennsylvania, eventually enrolling in 2 graduate programs at Stanford, one in physics, another in economics. But within just 2 days, he dropped out. Why? Because he saw the future, and it wasn't in a classroom. It was in the world of startups, innovation, and the web. The birth of the internet was a world-changing event, and Elon saw it as his chance to make a real impact. He co-founded Zip2, a city guide software company, which was eventually sold to Compaq for nearly $300 million. But instead of sitting back and relaxing, Elon had bigger plans. He saw an opportunity to bring about change on a global scale, change that would impact the world's reliance on fossil fuels and reshape the way people thought about energy. The idea of Tesla Motors was born. The company had humble beginnings. In 2003, it was little more than a collection of engineers, a visionary founder, and a belief that electric cars could be both practical and desirable. The world was skeptical, of course. People didn't believe that electric cars could compete with traditional gasoline-powered vehicles. But Elon saw it differently. He wasn't just building a car company. He was building a movement, a chance to turn the tide on climate change and offer a sustainable future for the planet. He poured his own money into Tesla, risking everything he had, even when investors pulled back. It was no secret that the company faced near collapse on several occasions, especially in the early years. The road to success was rocky, filled with delays, production issues, and naysayers who questioned the viability of electric cars. But Elon's belief in the mission kept him going. He wasn't driven by profit alone. He was driven by the knowledge that if Tesla succeeded, it would change the world. Then came the Model S, the breakthrough car that would set Tesla on the map and prove to the world that electric vehicles could be sleek, powerful, and desirable. Elon and his team had faced countless challenges in bringing it to market, but they had succeeded. The Model S became a symbol of innovation and cutting-edge technology, and suddenly, Tesla was no longer just an outsider. It was the future. The company expanded. More models came. Tesla became synonymous with electric cars. Elon wasn't just an entrepreneur anymore. He was a global icon, known for his ambitions to take humanity to Mars, to revolutionize the energy sector, and to push the limits of technological progress. But with this fame came pressure. The higher he climbed, the more demands were placed on him, and the harder it became to balance his vision with the reality of running a massive corporation. Now, as he stood in the factory disguised as someone else, he couldn't help but reflect on the old days. The late nights spent in garages with his engineers, the grueling discussions with investors, the moments of doubt when it seemed like Tesla might not survive. Those memories were bittersweet. They reminded him of the passion and drive that had built Tesla from the ground up. But they also reminded him of the distance that had grown between him and his company. Elon realized something as he walked through the factory. Tesla was no longer just a company. It had become a machine. And as much as he hated to admit it, he had become a part of that machine. His once constant presence on the factory floor, his close relationships with employees, and his hands-on approach had all faded. As Tesla grew, so did the gap between him and the very people who had helped him build it. This was why he was here, in this disguise. He had to know if the heart of Tesla still beat within its walls. He needed to see if the ideals that had driven him and the company were still alive. Or had they been buried under layers of success, corporate jargon, and bottom-line thinking? As Elon continued his walk, his thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a loud crash. He turned instinctively, his attention snapping to the source of the noise. A worker had knocked over a cart of tools, and the sound echoed through the floor. Several employees stopped to look, but no one rushed to help. The worker scrambled to pick up the tools, clearly embarrassed. Elon felt a pang of disappointment. Was this how it had become? A place where accidents were treated as inconveniences, rather than opportunities to lend a hand? He approached the worker, still in character as the homeless man, his voice low and unrecognizable. "Hey, are you okay? You need a hand?" he asked. The worker glanced up, surprised to see someone offering help. His initial hesitation gave way to gratitude. Yeah, thanks. It's just a stupid mistake. No big deal." Elon nodded, silently helping to gather the tools. There was something in the worker's eyes, something tired but genuine. In that brief moment, Elon saw a glimpse of the Tesla spirit. It wasn't gone. It was still there, buried beneath the surface, waiting to be reignited. But how much more of it could he find? "Don't worry about it," Elon said softly, as they finished picking up the last of the tools. "We all make mistakes." The worker looked at him, slightly confused but appreciative. "Yeah, thanks, man." Elon watched him walk away, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. Maybe he hadn't found all the answers yet, but this brief encounter had sparked something in him. Tesla was still a place where people cared, where empathy could still be found, even if it was buried beneath the weight of progress. He continued on, his resolve strengthening with each step. The truth was out there, and he was going to find it. Elon Musk had always been a man of action, moving quickly, thinking faster, and making decisions on instinct. Yet today, as he made his way deeper into the Tesla factory, there was a quiet unease stirring within him. The once thriving heart of the company seemed to have slowed, its rhythm now erratic and uncertain. He could feel the shift in the air, a tension simmering just below the surface. Employees bustled around, their faces blank, absorbed in their tasks, but something was off. It was as if the factory was running on autopilot, but no one was actually steering the ship. He moved through the assembly line with an almost invisible presence, blending in with the crowd of workers. The clang of metal and the hum of machinery filled his ears, but it was the conversations, or lack thereof, that caught his attention. He overheard snippets of dialogue, small talk about the weather, complaints about long hours, discussions of personal matters that seemed to have nothing to do with the mission of the company. Was this really the Tesla he had built? Elon's mind raced, but he tried to suppress his feelings of frustration. This wasn't the time to jump to conclusions. He needed to see more. He needed to dig deeper. As the hours passed, he found himself observing his employees more closely. It wasn't just the small talk that disturbed him. It was the apathy in their voices, the lack of energy. Tesla was no longer the place where the world's brightest minds came together to push the boundaries of technology. It was turning into just another corporate environment, with deadlines and quotas trumping the larger vision. His eyes settled on a small group of engineers huddled around a table, deep in conversation. The team was working on an advanced software update for the Tesla autopilot system, a project that Elon knew was critical for the company's future. But something about their body language told a different story. One engineer tapped away at a laptop, clearly distracted. Another fiddled with a pen, staring blankly at the screen. And the third, an older man in his 50s, rubbed his temples, a look of exhaustion etched on his face. Elon approached the group, still trying to maintain his disguise. He knew these engineers well, had worked side by side with them in the early days of Tesla. They were brilliant, driven, and fiercely dedicated to their craft. But today, they seemed different. The energy was missing. "Hey," Elon said softly, pretending to be a curious bystander. "I overheard you talking about the autopilot update. How's it going?" The younger engineer looked up, nodding with a forced smile. "Oh, yeah, we're making progress. Just running into a few bugs with the system. You know how it is." Elon had always prided himself on being the visionary, the one who could see beyond the horizon and bring others with him. But now, he was starting to feel like an outsider. He had built this company, but it was starting to feel like it was running without him. The disconnect between himself and his employees was palpable. They didn't see him as the driving force anymore. They saw him as a figurehead. A CEO who was too distant, too caught up in his own vision of the future to see the problems in front of him. His mind flashed to his other companies, SpaceX, Neuralink, the Boring Company. They too were growing rapidly, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. But even there, he sensed a similar undercurrent. The more successful his ventures became, the more disconnected he felt from the people who made them possible. For the first time in years, Elon felt lost. The dream that had once fueled his every decision now seemed to be slipping away, replaced by a corporate structure that cared more about profits than purpose. But that was the problem, wasn't it? In the pursuit of growth and success, the essence of Tesla, the mission, the passion, the drive, had been diluted. He had built this empire, but in doing so, had he lost sight of what made it great? He knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about a company anymore. It wasn't just about building cars or rockets. This was about something far more important, something that could shape the future. And if Tesla had lost its way, then it was up to him to bring it back. With renewed resolve, Elon straightened up, pushing aside the doubt that had begun to cloud his thoughts. He had built Tesla for a reason. He had put everything on the line, risked everything for this very mission. And he wasn't going to let it slip away, not now. He took a deep breath, mentally preparing himself for what was next. He would confront the truth, whatever it was, and he would bring Tesla back to its roots. He wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. As the days passed, Elon continued to move through the Tesla factory, his disguise still intact. The employees, oblivious to the fact that the very man behind the company was standing among them, carried on with their work. But the cracks in Tesla's foundation were becoming more visible with each passing moment. The once thriving culture of innovation, excitement, and passion was slowly eroding, replaced by a robotic, mechanical atmosphere where results mattered more than the people driving them. Elon couldn't ignore it any longer. His vision for Tesla had always been about more than just building the best electric car. It was about changing the world, about transforming the way people lived and interacted with technology, about creating a sustainable future for generations to come. But now, as he walked the factory floor, he couldn't help but feel that the soul of Tesla was slipping away, like sand through his fingers. Elon nodded, but his mind was already racing. The tone in the engineer's voice was flat, devoid of the enthusiasm he used to hear when they spoke about projects like this. Bugs? That's frustrating. Anything I can do to help? The engineer shrugged, not looking up from his laptop. Nah, we'll figure it out. Just takes time. It was the takes time response that set off alarm bells in Elon's mind. Tesla was never about taking time. It was about pushing limits, about moving at a pace that defied what others thought was possible. This wasn't the Tesla he had built. This wasn't the drive he had instilled in his people. And it wasn't just this group of engineers. Elon could feel it everywhere. As he moved on, his thoughts darkened. Could it be that the very thing he had created was losing its soul? Was Tesla becoming just another big tech company, driven by profit, growth, and shareholder expectations, rather than a sense of mission and purpose? His mind snapped back to the present when he overheard a heated conversation between two workers near the factory's back entrance. They didn't see him standing just a few feet away, hidden in the shadows, but their words reached him clearly. "I don't know if I can keep doing this," one worker said, his voice low but filled with frustration. "The pay's good, sure, but it's not worth it anymore. All these targets, deadlines, it's all just business as usual. It's like the old Tesla is gone." The second worker, a younger man, nodded. "Yeah, and have you seen the new management? It's like they don't even care about the mission. They just want results. Fast. Like it's a race. They don't get it." Elon's heart sank. This was exactly what he feared. Tesla had grown so quickly, so fast, that it was losing its essence. The mission that had once driven everything, making the world more sustainable, creating revolutionary technology, and changing how people viewed energy, had been overshadowed by the demands of corporate growth. He stepped back into the shadows, his mind racing. This wasn't just about innovation anymore. It wasn't just about creating a product. It was about something deeper, something more profound. The company's soul was at stake, and the question wasn't just whether Tesla could survive the pressures of the modern world. The real question was whether the people at Tesla still believed in the dream. "We're working on a completely new approach to how autopilot interacts with the environment. Right now, it relies heavily on pre-programmed responses to specific situations, but we think we can make it learn in real time. Imagine a car that not only reacts to the environment, but anticipates potential dangers before they even happen. That's the future we're working towards," the woman explained. Elon's mind was buzzing with possibilities. This was the kind of breakthrough Tesla needed. Something that would push the boundaries of what was possible. Something that would remind the world why Tesla was the leader in electric vehicles and autonomous driving technology. But as he looked around, he saw that the other engineers didn't share the same enthusiasm. One of them, an older man with a graying beard, shook his head. "It's a great idea, but we're not sure if it's feasible. The resources required to get this to market are significant. The higher-ups won't go for it." Elon's stomach twisted. This was the problem he had feared all along. The disconnect between the engineers, who still had the passion and drive to push boundaries, and the corporate side of Tesla, which was more concerned with profitability and timelines than with pioneering groundbreaking technology. "That's the problem, isn't it?" Elon said, his voice low but filled with conviction. "The higher-ups don't see the value in risk anymore. They don't understand that sometimes, to change the world, we have to bet everything. But that's the difference between being a leader and just another company in the market." The engineers exchanged looks. It was clear that they had been feeling this tension for some time. But the older engineer spoke up again, his voice tinged with frustration. "It's not just about risk, though. It's about resources. We can't keep pushing the envelope if we don't have the support we need. Tesla is so focused on scaling, on meeting numbers, that it's forgetting what made it great." Elon paused. He realized that this wasn't just about one team of engineers. It was about the entire company. Tesla had been growing at an exponential rate, but with that growth had come the pressures of bureaucracy, deadlines, and shareholder demands. The company had become a machine, and somewhere along the way, The heart of Tesla had been buried beneath all the numbers and targets. He was starting to see the full picture. This wasn't just about fixing a software bug or making a few improvements to the cars. This was about the very future of Tesla, the direction it was heading, and whether it could still live up to the mission he had set out for it. He had seen it before, how companies, as they grew, began to lose sight of the values that made them great. He had heard the stories of once great innovators who, as they scaled their businesses, found themselves caught in the web of corporate bureaucracy. And now, it seemed, Tesla was heading down that same path. The once vibrant spirit of change was being replaced by a culture obsessed with the bottom line. It wasn't about the mission anymore. It was about numbers, deadlines, and keeping the investors happy. Elon's gut told him that something had to change. But what? How could he bring Tesla back to its roots without derailing everything he had worked so hard to build? That's when he saw it. He had been wandering through the assembly line when his eyes caught a glimpse of something unusual. A small group of engineers huddled together around a computer screen, whispering urgently to one another. There was something about their energy that was different. The tension between them felt electric, not just the usual frustration he had witnessed in other teams. These engineers were onto something. They weren't bogged down by corporate speak or production quotas. No, they were working on something far bigger than themselves. Elon instinctively approached them, his curiosity piqued. He had to know what was going on. The engineers looked up as he approached, and for a brief second, they froze, unsure of who he was. But then one of them, a younger woman with sharp eyes, spoke up. "Can I help you, sir?" Her tone was polite, but there was an edge to it, something that told Elon she was ready for a fight if necessary. Elon smiled behind his disguise, his voice low. "I overheard you guys talking about something important. Looks like a breakthrough. What's going on here?" The woman looked at her colleagues, silently seeking permission, before nodding. "We're testing a new software update for the autopilot system. But it's not just about fixing bugs. This is something bigger. We think we can take it to the next level, maybe even leap ahead of our competitors." Elon's heart raced. This was it. This was the kind of innovation that Tesla was built on. Not just incremental progress, but leaps forward. The kind of bold moves that made Tesla not just a car company, but a disruptor in the entire industry. "What do you mean by taking it to the next level?" Elon asked, eager to hear more. As he stood there, thinking about the weight of the situation, a thought occurred to him. He had always prided himself on being an outsider, an innovator who didn't play by the rules. But now, he was part of the very corporate structure that had stifled innovation in other companies. He had become what he had always feared. But it wasn't too late. "Listen," Elon said, his voice growing more resolute. "We can fix this. We can bring Tesla back to what it was meant to be. But it's going to take all of us. We can't just keep playing it safe. We have to take risks again. And we have to do it together." The engineers seemed to sense the shift in his tone, a renewed fire igniting in their eyes. Elon had given them a glimpse of the passion that had once driven the company. He had reminded them why they were here, why they had all come to Tesla in the first place, to change the world. And maybe, just maybe, they could do it again. Elon's journey through the factory wasn't just about seeing what was wrong. It was about finding what was still right, hidden beneath the surface. And with this breakthrough, he realized that hope wasn't lost. There was still a chance to reignite the spark that had once made Tesla the most revolutionary company in the world. The next few days were a whirlwind. Elon could feel the palpable change in the air as the energy inside the Tesla factory shifted. The engineers were working harder than ever before, fueled by the possibility of the new software breakthrough, and the sense of urgency Elon had instilled in them was infectious. There was a spark, a glimmer of the old Tesla that was beginning to rise from the ashes. But it wasn't just the work that had changed. It was the spirit of the company itself. However, as the momentum built, so did the pressure. The realities of running such a massive corporation began to creep back in, forcing Elon to reckon with a harsh truth. While the passion for innovation was reigniting, the growing demands for profits, deadlines, and shareholder expectations still loomed over everything like a shadow. It was a constant tug-of-war between staying true to the original mission and meeting the demands of the modern corporate world. Elon was beginning to realize that this would not be easy. The company had outgrown the scrappy startup mentality, and the fight to preserve its soul had become far more complicated than he had imagined. He had always believed that vision could conquer all, that passion and purpose could transcend the red tape of corporate life. But now, he wasn't so sure. Late one evening, as he sat alone in his office, staring out the window at the sprawling Tesla campus below, he felt the weight of it all. The factory was humming quietly in the distance, workers still on the floor, pushing toward that next milestone. But here, in his private sanctuary, Elon felt the isolation that had been creeping up on him for some time. It was one thing to fight for your vision in the early days, when you had a small team of believers. But now, he was fighting not just against competitors or even the odds, but against the very nature of corporate growth itself. He thought back to the early days of Tesla, when it was just a few engineers in a garage, passionate about building the world's first electric car. There was a sense of camaraderie then, a shared mission that united everyone. Now, things felt different. He had become the figurehead, the visionary, but the distance between him and his employees had grown. They were no longer working side by side in the trenches. Now, they were working for him. And that subtle shift had created an invisible wall between them. The door to his office creaked open, and a figure appeared in the doorway. It was Jaden, one of his most trusted engineers, a young man Elon had mentored since the early days of Tesla. Jaden was part of the team working on the new autopilot update, and Elon had noticed the fire in his eyes. He was one of the few who still seemed genuinely passionate about the mission. "You okay, Elon?" Jaden asked, his voice low and concerned. Elon smiled faintly. "Yeah, just thinking." Jaden stepped into the room, his eyes scanning the space as if trying to gauge his mentor's mood. "You've been here a while. The team's looking to you for leadership, you know? They're starting to believe again. But we need you to be present. More than just in meetings. We need the old Elon, the one who pushes us to be better, who believes in us, not just the numbers." Elon sighed and leaned back in his chair. "It's hard, Jaden. I've spent so many years fighting for this, fighting for the mission, for Tesla. But the more we grow, the harder it gets to keep that fire alive. The pressure, it's crushing. I can't be everywhere at once, and I can't always be the guy who leads by example like I used to. It's like I'm watching my own creation drift away from me, and I don't know if I can get it back." Jaden's gaze softened. "Elon, we're still here because of you. We're here because you believed in something bigger than all of us. Tesla was never about just making money. It was about changing the world. And we still believe that. But we need to see that belief from you, too. If you're starting to doubt it, how can we keep fighting for it?" The following weeks were a blur of activity. Elon knew that he had a long road ahead of him, but now, more than ever, he was determined to bring Tesla back to its roots, to revive the spark of innovation that had once made it the driving force behind the electric car revolution. He was no longer just a CEO overseeing a corporation. He was the catalyst for change, the leader who had to steer Tesla through the complexities of its own success and restore its original purpose. It wasn't easy. The higher-ups, investors, corporate board members, and even some of his own executives had begun to notice the shift in Elon's attitude. They saw his increasing engagement with the employees on the factory floor, his insistence on pushing the boundaries of innovation, and his calls for a new focus on the company's original mission. And of course, they saw the cost. Tesla's operations were more expensive than ever. The new ideas Elon wanted to explore, the software updates, the push for more radical advancements in autopilot, everything came with a hefty price tag. The balance between pushing for cutting-edge technology and maintaining profitability was becoming more difficult to manage. Every decision felt like a gamble. One wrong move, and Tesla could lose the faith of its investors, its customers, and its own employees. The risk was enormous, but so was the reward. But Elon didn't back down. The old spirit of Tesla, the one that had started with a small group of engineers and a vision to change the world, was still alive. He was committed to ensuring that the company's success wasn't defined by quarterly earnings or stock prices, but by its ability to innovate and drive real change. To him, that was the only measure of success that mattered. As he met with his team of engineers, including Jaden and the others working on the new autopilot technology, Elon could see the passion in their eyes. They weren't just working on another software update. They were working on a revolution. They believed in the mission as much as he did, and that belief was contagious. The factory floor buzzed with energy, creativity, and the kind of excitement that had been missing for far too long. But the road to revival wasn't without its challenges. During a critical meeting with the board, Elon was confronted with the reality of the situation. The investors were becoming anxious. They wanted results, and they wanted them quickly. Elon, one of the board members, said, his voice laced with concern, "We need to see tangible progress. Tesla has always been a pioneer, but we're at a point where the market is changing. The competition is catching up, and we can't afford to be behind. You need to deliver, and you need to deliver now." Elon's heart tightened at Jaden's words. The young engineer was right. He had built this company on a dream that wasn't about the bottom line, but about making a meaningful difference. He had always prided himself on seeing what others couldn't, on being the first to recognize opportunities where others saw obstacles. But in the whirlwind of corporate growth, he had lost sight of that vision. He had become consumed with the logistics, the strategy, the day-to-day. And now, it felt like he was losing the very thing that had made him fight so hard in the first place. The weight of the moment crashed down on him. He had always prided himself on being the visionary, the one who led others through uncertainty. But in this moment, he was the one who needed guidance. The company had grown, but so had the challenges. The mission he had set out to accomplish, the mission of transforming the world, was still worth fighting for, but it would require more than just innovation. It would require heart. It would require the very same passion and drive that had sparked the initial fire of Tesla. He stood up slowly, his mind made up. "You're right, Jaden. I've lost sight of what really matters. But it's not too late. I'm not giving up on Tesla. I won't let it become just another company. We're going to fight for this together. I promise you that." Jaden smiled, his eyes lighting up with renewed hope. That's the Elon we need. In that moment, something shifted within Elon. It wasn't just the weight of responsibility that had been wearing him down. It was his own doubt. He had questioned whether Tesla could still be the company he had dreamed of when he first set out. But now, he understood that it wasn't the company that needed to change, it was him. He had to return to the roots of Tesla, not as a corporate entity, but as a mission-driven movement. It wasn't just about leading from the top. It was about inspiring his team to believe in the impossible again. As the conversation with Jaden ended, Elon felt a renewed sense of purpose. The path forward wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in a long time, he was ready to face the challenge head-on. He wasn't going to let Tesla lose its soul, not if he could help it. That night, as Elon made his way back to his modest apartment, he reflected on the journey ahead. There would be obstacles, and there would be setbacks. But he had come this far because he never backed down from a challenge. And this, more than any other, would be the challenge that defined him. Tesla had been built on a dream, and it was time to bring that dream back to life. Elon listened carefully, but his mind was already racing. He knew that he had to find a way to balance the immediate demands of the market with the long-term vision that had fueled Tesla from the beginning. It wasn't going to be easy, but he was determined to find a way to make it work. "I understand your concerns," Elon said calmly, his voice steady. "But I've always believed that real progress takes time. We've never been in this for the short term. Tesla was built to change the world, and that's not something that happens overnight. It's going to take hard work, innovation, and, yes, a bit of risk. But the payoff will be worth it." He could see the skepticism in their eyes. They didn't share his belief in the long-term vision of Tesla. To them, it was all about the bottom line. But Elon wasn't about to let that deter him. He had faced adversity before, and he was prepared to face it again. The following days were filled with intense meetings, brainstorming sessions, and countless hours spent refining the new plans. Elon spent time with every department, listening to ideas, addressing concerns, and realigning everyone with the company's core mission: to build the most innovative, sustainable, and cutting-edge technology in the world. He knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but he was committed to bringing Tesla back to the place it had once held, at the forefront of change and progress. And then, one evening, just as he was about to call it a day, he received a message that would change everything. It was a message from the engineers working on the new autopilot software, a breakthrough. They had done it. They had successfully integrated real-time learning capabilities into the system, enabling the car to predict potential hazards and adjust its behavior based on the environment in ways that had never been seen before. It wasn't just an update. It was a leap forward, a game changer. Elon stood up from his desk, his heart pounding. This was the moment he had been waiting for. This was the breakthrough that would put Tesla back on track, that would prove to the world that it wasn't just a company. Tesla was a force for change. The news spread like wildfire. The engineers, the designers, the entire Tesla team gathered in the main conference room to celebrate the achievement. Jaden, the young engineer who had sparked the initial inspiration for the project, stood at the front, beaming with pride. Elon's eyes met his, and for a brief moment, it felt as though all the struggles, all the challenges, and all the doubt had been worth it. "This is just the beginning," Elon said, his voice filled with emotion. "We've proven that we can still innovate, that we can still change the world. But we have to stay true to who we are." Tesla was never meant to be just another company. It was meant to be the spark that ignites a revolution. As the team erupted into applause, Elon took a moment to reflect. The road to this point had been anything but easy. He had faced his own doubts, navigated the pressures of corporate expectations, and struggled to maintain the company's soul in a rapidly changing world. But in that moment, surrounded by his team, he realized something important. The fight wasn't over. In fact, it had only just begun. Tesla had rediscovered its purpose. And with that rediscovery came a renewed sense of hope, of vision, and of possibility. The road ahead would be filled with obstacles, but now, Elon knew that they were ready. Together, they would take on the world and prove that innovation, passion, and a relentless pursuit of a better future were all that truly mattered. As the celebration wound down, Elon stepped outside into the cool night air, looking up at the stars above. He felt a deep sense of peace. The journey ahead would be challenging, but with the team by his side and a renewed commitment to the mission, he knew they could accomplish anything. Tesla was back on track, and the world was about to see what happened when true innovation, fueled by purpose and vision, met the power of a passionate team. Months had passed since the breakthrough in autopilot technology, and the atmosphere at Tesla was electric. The company was buzzing with energy again, and there was a renewed sense of purpose among everyone. Elon's determination had set the tone, and his vision for Tesla's future was clearer than ever. But as the company's momentum continued to build, a new challenge emerged, one that would test everything Elon and his team had worked for. Tesla had already begun receiving some attention from competitors. They had long been the pioneer in electric vehicle technology, but now the playing field was beginning to level. Companies like Rivian, Lucid Motors, and even legacy automakers like Ford and GM had started rolling out their own electric vehicles, many of which boasted impressive specs and features. The competitive pressure was mounting, and Elon knew that in order to maintain Tesla's position as the leader in the electric vehicle market, they had to go beyond just creating great products. They had to change the game entirely. Elon's mind raced as he sat in his office, looking over the latest reports on the competition. Tesla's market share was still significant, but it was shrinking. Rivian had gained a lot of traction, and Lucid was turning heads with its luxury sedans. Meanwhile, the traditional automakers had deep pockets and vast distribution networks. If Tesla didn't innovate at an even faster pace, they risked being overtaken. But that wasn't the real test. The real test came in the form of an unexpected crisis. One afternoon, an urgent message came through Elon's phone. There had been a major malfunction in one of Tesla's top-selling models, the Model Y. A series of customers had reported a critical issue with the car's self-driving capabilities, causing the vehicle to make erratic decisions while navigating busy highways. It was a nightmare scenario for any company, let alone one that had positioned itself as the future of autonomous driving. Elon's heart sank. He knew that any failure in the self-driving system could undo years of progress. Tesla's reputation for innovation had always been tightly linked to their autonomous driving technology, and now it was under scrutiny. The last thing they needed was a public relations disaster. Within hours, a full-scale investigation was underway. Engineers scrambled to determine the cause of the malfunction while legal teams worked with PR to control the narrative. Elon was in the thick of it, coordinating everything, fielding calls from concerned investors, and trying to calm the nerves of his team. But inside, the pressure was unbearable. It felt like everything he had worked for was on the brink of collapsing. For the first time in a long time, he was forced to confront the harsh reality of Tesla's success. The stakes had never been higher. The spotlight was brighter than ever, and with that came the risks. Every misstep, every failure, could be magnified and turn into a crisis. It wasn't just about proving Tesla's potential anymore. It was about surviving the very weight of its own success. Days passed in a blur of meetings, diagnostics, and troubleshooting. Elon spent sleepless nights reviewing data, trying to pinpoint exactly where the system had gone wrong. He wasn't sure if it was a software glitch, a hardware issue, or some combination of the two, but he knew one thing for sure. This was the moment that would define Tesla. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the engineers discovered the cause. A series of miscalibrated sensors had created an inaccurate map of the road, leading the vehicle to make dangerous decisions in certain situations. It was a relatively simple fix, but the damage had already been done. There was a recall on the Model Y, and Tesla's reputation was shaken. The media frenzy was inevitable. Headlines screamed about Tesla's malfunctioning self-driving cars, and soon, people began to question whether Tesla's technology was truly as reliable as they had once believed. Investors began pulling back, and stock prices dipped. It was a critical blow, one that threatened to undo all the progress they had made. But Elon wasn't ready to give up. He called an emergency meeting with his team. Jaden, the lead engineer on the autopilot project, stood at the front, looking just as determined as Elon. The team had already begun working on a fix, but Elon knew it wasn't just about solving the technical problem. They had to restore faith in Tesla, both among the public and their investors. "This is our defining moment," Elon said, his voice steady, though the weight of the situation hung heavily on his shoulders. "We've always said that we're not just making cars, we're changing the world. This setback is painful, but it's not the end. We fix this, we learn from it, and we come back stronger. But I need all of you to believe that we can do this. This is why we're here. We're not going to back down from this challenge." Jaden nodded, his eyes locked on Elon's. "We'll fix it. We have the best minds in the industry. We've been through tough times before, and we've come out the other side. This is no different." The engineers went to work, their minds laser-focused on finding a solution. Elon, for his part, worked tirelessly to calm the public and reassure Tesla's investors. He knew that the road to recovery wouldn't be easy, but he also knew that Tesla had come through harder challenges in the past. This wasn't the first time the company had faced a crisis, and it wouldn't be the last. What mattered now was how they responded. Over the course of the next several weeks, the team worked around the clock, testing new software updates and making adjustments to the hardware. Elon was there every step of the way, pushing his team to innovate, to think outside the box, and to get things right. He knew that if Tesla could fix this, it would prove to the world that they were still the leaders in the electric vehicle space. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the new software was ready for deployment. The fix was seamless, and the cars were back on the road. But the real test was going to be in how Tesla handled the fallout. Elon knew they had to act quickly and decisively to regain the trust of their customers. And so, with a bold move, Elon announced that Tesla would be offering a full refund to every customer who had purchased the affected Model Y, as well as free lifetime access to the company's newest software updates. The move was unprecedented, but Elon knew it would show the world that Tesla was committed to not just building great products, but to standing behind them when things went wrong. The gamble paid off. Slowly, but surely, public perception began to shift. Tesla's stock began to climb again, and the company's reputation for innovation and integrity was restored. Elon knew this was just one battle in a much larger war, but for the first time in a long time, he felt like Tesla had weathered a storm that could have easily torn it apart. In the end, Tesla emerged from the crisis stronger than ever. It wasn't just about fixing the cars, it was about how they had responded to the challenge. The company's resilience had been tested, but it had passed with flying colors. Elon stood at the edge of the Tesla factory one evening, gazing out over the campus. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow over everything. He felt a deep sense of pride, not just in the company, but in the people who had made it possible. Tesla wasn't just a car company, it was a movement, and he had never been more certain of its future. The weeks following the resolution of the Model Y recall were filled with intense reflection for Elon. The crisis had been a wake-up call, a reminder that no company, no matter how innovative, was invincible. But it was also a time of growth. Tesla had weathered the storm, and now it was time for something even bigger, the next phase in Tesla's evolution. The challenge ahead was immense, but so was the opportunity. Elon was aware of the stakes more than ever. He knew that Tesla had to keep pushing the envelope, not just to maintain its position at the top, but to redefine the entire future of transportation. Tesla's mission was to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, but Elon had always known that the path to success was fraught with challenges, and this time, the challenge wasn't just technological. It was cultural, corporate, and even personal. It was a rainy evening when the opportunity for Tesla's most ambitious project yet presented itself. Elon had been in constant communication with various governments, both in the United States and abroad, to secure partnerships that would allow Tesla to expand its influence globally. The conversations had been complex, involving policy, manufacturing, and large-scale infrastructure projects to integrate electric vehicles more comprehensively into the world's transportation systems. But there was one project in particular that had the potential to redefine Tesla's future: the development of a fully sustainable, self-driving electric transport network. For years, Elon had envisioned a world where electric vehicles were no longer just a luxury or a niche market. They were the mainstream. But with the addition of self-driving technology, Tesla had the potential to make cars even more accessible, safe, and environmentally friendly. And with the support of governments, this vision could become a reality sooner than anyone expected. The catch was this: it wasn't going to be easy. The scale of the project was monumental. It required not only the technological infrastructure that Tesla had built over the years, but also a vast network of partners in the public and private sectors. It meant coordinating with city planners, transportation agencies, and governments to ensure that Tesla's electric vehicles were integrated into urban centers in a way that was practical, efficient, and safe. That night, as he sat alone in his office, Elon reflected on everything that had brought him to this point. The struggle, the triumphs, the setbacks. He thought about the early days of Tesla, when it had been just a small team working out of a cramped office with nothing but a shared belief in the possibility of change. Back then, it had been about the mission, about creating something bigger than themselves. And even now, despite all the success, that mission still drove him. But this was a different challenge. This time, it wasn't just about making the best car. It was about creating an entire new way of living. He couldn't afford to fail. At that moment, he made a decision. The next day, Elon called an all-hands meeting. He addressed the entire Tesla workforce, from the engineers to the factory floor workers, all the way up to the board of directors. He told them about the vision he had for the future, the self-driving transport network that would change the world. He explained the risks and the challenges, but reminded them of what Tesla was about. They had never been afraid of big risks, and they had always believed in doing what others said was impossible. "This is the next step in our journey," Elon said, his voice filled with conviction. "We've made it this far because we've always believed in the impossible. We've always been willing to fight for what we know is right. And now, more than ever, we need to stand together and take this next step. Because if we succeed, we won't just be creating a new way to drive. We'll be creating a new way to live." As the meeting ended, Elon felt a renewed sense of determination. He knew the road ahead was fraught with challenges, but he also knew that Tesla had the heart and the talent to overcome them. The team was ready, and so was he. For the first time in a long while, Elon allowed himself a moment to feel hope. Not just hope for Tesla, but for the world. The future was still uncertain, but now, with the team behind him and a bold vision ahead, he felt ready to face whatever came next. Elon Musk had always been a visionary. He had set out to change the world, first with PayPal, then with Tesla, and later with SpaceX. But the stakes had never felt higher than they did now. The vision of a self-driving, sustainable transport network was bigger than anything Tesla had ever undertaken. This wasn't just about making cars. It was about redefining the future of transportation itself. Elon had long believed that self-driving cars would be the ultimate solution to many of the world's transportation issues: traffic congestion, environmental degradation, and even the sheer inefficiency of personal car ownership. The concept was simple. People could hail a self-driving car to take them where they needed to go, share rides, and reduce the number of vehicles on the road. The environmental impact would be dramatic, but so would the change in how people live their daily lives. But this was more than just about cars. It was about creating an entirely new ecosystem of transportation. It was about changing the way people thought about travel. And it was about Tesla stepping up as the leader in this new age of autonomy. But the road to this vision was still fraught with obstacles. There were regulatory hurdles, legal challenges, and the enormous task of scaling Tesla's self-driving software to handle real-world, urban environments. There were concerns about safety, security, and public acceptance. People didn't always trust autonomous technology, and in many cases, the potential for failure was a major deterrent. Elon stood in front of the room, looking out at the faces of his team. He had gathered everyone: engineers, project managers, city planners, and even legal experts, to discuss the future of the self-driving transport network. His voice was steady but filled with a quiet urgency. "This is our moment," Elon said, his words carrying a weight that was felt by everyone in the room. "What we're talking about isn't just another update to our cars. This is the beginning of something that will change the world. We have the technology, we have the passion, and we have the vision. What we need now is the courage to make it happen." The room was silent for a moment. Then, one by one, his team members nodded in agreement. They knew what this meant. They were no longer just working for a car company. They were part of a revolution. And that revolution was about to take flight. But just as the excitement was beginning to build, another crisis loomed on the horizon. Tesla's competitors, sensing the imminent arrival of a self-driving revolution, began to rally their resources. Traditional automakers, in particular, were stepping up their game. They had the capital, the infrastructure, and the years of experience. Rivian, Lucid, Ford, and GM were all accelerating their own autonomous vehicle development programs. Tesla's position as the clear leader was no longer guaranteed. For the first time in years, Elon could feel the pressure. This wasn't just a race to improve technology. It was a race to maintain Tesla's position as the most innovative company on the planet. The stakes had never been higher, and the weight of that responsibility rested squarely on Elon's shoulders. If Tesla was going to stay ahead, they needed to move faster than ever before. But even the most daring ideas come with their fair share of opposition, and Tesla was no exception. As soon as Elon unveiled the grand vision for a fully integrated, self-driving network, the critics began to line up. The media, the regulators, and even Tesla's own competitors started questioning the viability of such an ambitious plan. For some, it was an idea that sounded good on paper, but no one really believed it could be achieved, at least, not anytime soon. Even within Tesla's own ranks, a sense of unease began to creep in. Some of the engineers were concerned about the timeline. They understood that while Tesla had made remarkable strides in autonomous driving, implementing the technology on a global scale was an entirely different beast. The infrastructure simply didn't exist to support a fleet of self-driving cars, and building that infrastructure would take time, resources, and cooperation from governments and private companies alike. Then, there were the regulatory hurdles. Self-driving cars were still a hot-button issue in many countries. Governments were hesitant to fully embrace the technology without first conducting extensive testing. There were fears about the safety of autonomous vehicles, particularly in complex urban environments, where unpredictable human drivers posed a constant risk. Even though Tesla had proven its technology's capabilities in limited situations, the widespread implementation of fully autonomous vehicles was still a long way off. Elon knew this, of course. He had faced skepticism and resistance his whole career, but this time felt different. The pressure was mounting in ways it never had before. Tesla's competitors were catching up quickly, and new challengers were emerging every day. The likes of Rivian and Lucid were no longer the underdogs. They had significant backing, strong product offerings, and a growing consumer base. Elon could no longer afford to be complacent. If Tesla didn't stay ahead, they risked being left behind. The tension within Tesla reached a boiling point when one of the company's senior engineers, Samuel Grant, spoke out at a strategy meeting. Samuel was an outspoken, brilliant engineer who had been with Tesla since the early days. His contributions to the development of autopilot had been invaluable, but recently, he had become more vocal about his concerns regarding the new project. "Look, Elon," Samuel began, his voice calm but firm. "We've done amazing things, no doubt. But this is asking too much, too soon. The technology's not ready for this scale. We've made incredible progress, but we can't ignore the fact that there are still gaps in the system. Gaps that could lead to accidents, lawsuits, and public backlash. And don't even get me started on the infrastructure. We're talking about building roads, redesigning entire cities, getting governments to cooperate. This isn't just about making the cars work. It's about making the entire ecosystem work. And I'm not sure we're there yet." Elon's face was unreadable as he listened. He had always appreciated Samuel's honesty, but hearing those words from someone so close to the project stung. He had never shied away from a challenge, and he didn't plan on starting now. "I understand your concerns," Elon replied, his voice measured but resolute. "But we can't let fear hold us back. Every major technological advancement in history has been met with doubt. The critics are always loudest at the beginning. But if we want to make this happen, we need to push forward, not retreat. We've always been a company that does the impossible. If we wait for everything to be perfect, we'll never get there. We have to start building the future today." But as Elon spoke, he couldn't help but feel a twinge of doubt himself. Samuel's words had hit home. Tesla's future wasn't just about autonomous driving anymore. It was about reshaping society itself. And that was a monumental task. The conflict wasn't just external. Within Tesla's ranks, there were growing concerns about whether the company could meet the expectations it had set for itself. Would they be able to deliver on the promises of a fully self-driving, sustainable future? Or would they fall short, like so many other ambitious companies before them? To make matters worse, the media began to turn on Tesla. What had once been a darling of Silicon Valley was now the subject of intense scrutiny. Journalists dug deep into the company's operations, reporting on the technical failures, the challenges in scaling the technology, and the growing concerns about safety. The press was relentless, and soon, Tesla's stock took a hit. Investors were growing nervous. Would this self-driving vision be Tesla's greatest triumph or its greatest mistake? In the face of all this, Elon doubled down on his resolve. He was used to being underestimated, used to the skepticism, but this was different. The stakes were higher than ever. Tesla had already changed the automotive industry, but this next step, this transportation revolution, was something that could define his legacy. So, Elon did what he did best. He worked tirelessly. He called meetings with government officials, trying to secure the regulatory approvals needed to push forward. He met with urban planners to discuss the changes that would be required to accommodate Tesla's self-driving fleet. And he worked closely with the engineering team to refine the technology, ensuring that the cars could navigate complex urban environments safely and efficiently. But despite all his efforts, the challenges kept mounting. The roadblocks, both external and internal, seemed to grow with each passing day. Tesla's competitors were gaining ground, and public perception was beginning to sour. If they didn't act fast, Tesla might lose its lead, and Elon knew that if they didn't succeed, the entire company's future could be in jeopardy. It was a long night in the Tesla headquarters when the final blow came. A high-profile self-driving incident occurred, one that involved a Tesla vehicle that, despite all of the company's advances, failed to prevent an accident. Thankfully, no one was seriously injured, but the incident was enough to send shockwaves through the company and the media. It was the kind of negative press Tesla could ill afford. Elon stared at the headline on his phone. Tesla's self-driving car involved in collision. Is the future of autonomous driving at risk? His heart sank. The challenges had been building for months, but this was the tipping point. Tesla was facing its most significant crisis yet. Elon's mind raced as the pressure mounted. The vision was still alive, but the path forward had never been so uncertain. The journey wasn't over. It had only just begun, and the road ahead was filled with more obstacles than he had ever anticipated. Could Tesla navigate this turbulent time and emerge victorious, Or was the company on the brink of failure? The morning after the crash, Tesla's headquarters was engulfed in chaos. The phones rang off the hook, emails flooded in, and employees were scrambling to control the damage. The media had seized on the story, and the headlines were everywhere. Tesla's self-driving car fails again, and is Tesla's ambitious vision of autonomous cars doomed? Elon Musk stood at the center of it all. His mind raced through every possibility, every angle, every decision that had led to this moment. He'd been through controversies before. SpaceX had nearly failed multiple times, and Tesla itself had survived financial near-collapse. But this felt different. This wasn't just a setback. It was a public crisis that could unravel everything Tesla had worked for. Samuel nodded, but he couldn't hide the skepticism in his voice. And what about the public? What about the backlash? If we push forward and something goes wrong again, Elon cut him off. If we don't push forward, we're guaranteeing failure. We need to show them that we're not afraid of the challenge. Tesla is built on doing the impossible. We can fix this. The meeting concluded, but the tension remained. Elon knew what they were about to undertake wouldn't be easy. Tesla's engineers were already working overtime to isolate the issue that caused the crash, and the rest of the team was working on damage control for the media. Elon left the meeting feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. He had always been a man of big ideas, but the burden of leading Tesla had never felt so heavy. The mission was clear, but the road was no longer certain. He walked to his office, the sound of his footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. The once optimistic atmosphere that had filled Tesla's halls now felt heavy, like a storm was hanging in the air. The vision of a sustainable, self-driving future had always been a distant dream, one that felt closer with each step. But now, that dream felt fragile. One mistake, one slip-up, and the entire foundation of Tesla could crumble. As he sat at his desk, staring at the reports in front of him, Elon couldn't help but question everything. Had he pushed too far, too fast? Was the world truly ready for what Tesla was trying to do? The hours blurred by as Elon grappled with these thoughts. He knew what he had to do. He needed to face the world, head-on, and take full responsibility. But the self-doubt, the fear of failure, loomed in the back of his mind. By evening, Elon gathered his team again, this time with a clearer sense of purpose. This wouldn't be just about fixing the cars or the software. It would be about restoring the faith of their customers, investors, and the world. The project wasn't just about Tesla. It was about the future of technology itself. He couldn't afford to let this moment be a failure. It had to be the defining moment of Tesla's legacy. Listen, everyone, Elon began, standing before his team once again. We're going to own this. We've made mistakes, and we'll learn from them. But I'm not backing down from this vision. We'll fix what went wrong, and we'll come out stronger than ever. This is what we were meant to do. He had known the risks from the beginning. The self-driving program had always been a moonshot, an ambition that pushed the boundaries of what was considered possible. But now, the question was no longer about innovation, it was about credibility. Could Tesla still lead the future of transportation after this? The engineers worked furiously behind closed doors, reviewing data from the incident. Elon's phone buzzed incessantly, but he ignored it, focusing on the one thing that mattered: leading the company through this storm. By the afternoon, a meeting was called. Elon stood in front of his senior leadership team, including Samuel Grant, who had been vocal in his concerns during the previous weeks. There was a tangible tension in the room. Every person in that meeting knew the gravity of what was at stake. Elon looked at Samuel, who sat across from him, his expression neutral. The other team members were seated in a circle, awaiting Elon's words. "We knew this was coming," Elon began, his voice steady, though there was a noticeable edge to it. "We pushed the envelope. We dared to take risks. But now, we need to be ready to face the consequences. This isn't just about fixing a bug or tweaking the software. This is about rebuilding trust, not just with our customers, but with everyone who believes in us." Samuel leaned forward, his tone serious. "Elon, I get that we can't stop now, but we need a clear path forward. This can't just be about damage control. We need to reassess the system, the software, the entire infrastructure. If we don't address these problems head-on, we risk not just our reputation, but the entire project." Elon met Samuel's gaze, a flicker of doubt in his eyes, but he quickly pushed it away. "I don't disagree," he replied, his voice cold. "But we're not going to let this stop us. We have a mission here, and we can't afford to lose focus." The room fell silent as the weight of Elon's words sank in. Everyone knew what he was saying wasn't just leadership, it was a declaration. Despite the public outcry, despite the critics, Elon wasn't backing down. "We need to fix this," Elon continued, a spark of determination lighting up his features. "And we need to do it now. We're going to double down on testing, on safety, on every aspect of the system that failed. We'll bring in experts, we'll rework the algorithms, and we'll take responsibility. But we will not stop until we deliver what we promised." Elon insisted on the highest standards, pushing the engineers to simulate more real-world scenarios than ever before. They tested the system in heavy traffic, during adverse weather conditions, in unfamiliar terrains, and even in emergency situations. Each simulation was designed to stress the limits of the technology, but Elon wasn't satisfied with anything less than perfection. At the same time, Tesla's competitors weren't standing still. Rivian, Lucid, and other players in the electric vehicle market were accelerating their own autonomous programs. Some of them had partnered with major tech firms to beef up their AI, while others were tapping into government infrastructure to expand their reach. The pressure on Tesla to deliver was mounting. Elon didn't ignore the competition. He knew that Tesla's advantage was its relentless focus on innovation, and it was time to show the world that Tesla was still the leader in the electric and autonomous vehicle race. One morning, about a month after the crash, Elon gathered his senior team together for a breakthrough meeting. They had fixed the sensor issue, but it was clear that a more holistic approach was needed. Tesla wasn't just going to fix the problem. They were going to evolve. "We need to set the bar higher," Elon said as he stood at the front of the room, the intensity of his vision clear in his eyes. "This is bigger than just Tesla. We are going to make the world safer and more sustainable. The future of transportation depends on us." Elon proposed a radical new plan, an ambitious vision that would combine Tesla's self-driving technology with a global network of high-speed, electric transportation pods. These pods would be fully autonomous, electric vehicles that could not only drive people but also cargo. Think of them as the next evolution of ride-sharing and freight logistics, where every part of the transportation process was streamlined and sustainable. "We need to create a system that will be as ubiquitous as the internet. A seamless experience where people don't think about the tech, they just use it. We can build an infrastructure that's as advanced as the cars themselves. Think about it, an autonomous fleet of vehicles moving through cities, picking up passengers, delivering goods. This is how we get to a sustainable future." The team listened intently, knowing that the vision Elon laid out would require a monumental effort, one that would stretch Tesla's resources, abilities, and partnerships further than ever before. But they also knew one thing for sure. If anyone could pull it off, it was Elon Musk. The next few months were marked by a period of intense, focused work. Elon didn't allow the team to be distracted by the noise outside. They reworked the system, tested new algorithms, and prepared for a public reveal that would reassert Tesla's position as the leader in the electric and autonomous vehicle industry. Elon walked onto the stage, the room quieting instantly as cameras flashed. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by something far more intense, determination. He looked out at the sea of reporters and began to speak. "Thank you for being here today," Elon started, his voice steady but unyielding. "I won't waste time making excuses. What happened was unacceptable. Our autonomous system, which we worked tirelessly on, failed to live up to its potential, and it cost us. But Tesla doesn't shy away from adversity. We face it head-on, learn from it, and improve. We are committed to fixing this, and we will succeed." He paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle. "We've already pinpointed the issue. It was a failure in one of our sensors, a hardware issue. The software was not at fault, but the system couldn't account for this particular error. We've fixed the problem, and we're taking additional steps to ensure that we do not repeat this. But more importantly, we are not going to let this setback derail our vision. Our mission has never been more urgent. A sustainable, self-driving future is still possible, and we will make it a reality." The room was silent, save for the rustling of notepads and pens. Elon had addressed the situation head-on, but would it be enough? He continued, "We've learned that nothing worth doing is easy. We've been in tough situations before, and we've come out stronger. This will be no different." Tesla was built on a foundation of risk and resilience. Today, we double down on that commitment. Elon's voice carried the weight of everything Tesla had been through: struggles, triumphs, and an unrelenting belief in the mission. The press conference ended with a wave of applause. Whether the world believed him or not, the message had been delivered. Tesla wasn't going to quit. However, the road to recovery was far from smooth. The days following the press conference were filled with countless meetings, data reviews, and technical fixes. Elon had the engineers working around the clock. They'd identified the problem and rolled out a software update to address the issue. It wasn't just a technical fix. It was a complete reevaluation of how Tesla's autonomous system interacted with its environment. "What's going on?" Elon asked, his voice tinged with curiosity and concern. "There's been an issue with one of the pods in the San Francisco pilot program. It was a minor malfunction, but it's got potential for bigger implications. We've already got the engineers working on it, but I wanted to give you a heads up." Elon's stomach tightened. After all the hard work, the last thing they needed was another setback. "Is it something we can fix?" Samuel sighed. "We'll fix it, but we need to make sure it doesn't snowball. The public has been waiting for Tesla to make good on its promises. One issue, no matter how small, could send the wrong message." Elon leaned back in his chair, staring at the city lights outside his window. "I know. We've been through worse. We'll handle it. Just keep me posted." After hanging up, Elon sat in silence, reflecting on the weight of his journey. The idea of a perfect world where everything worked flawlessly was a fantasy. No system was immune to error, no matter how much you tested or prepared. But he also knew that the true measure of Tesla's success wasn't just in how they handled the good times. It was in how they responded when things went wrong. Elon thought back to the first days of Tesla. There had been doubt in the beginning, but with every failure, the team had gotten stronger. They had proven that electric vehicles could be practical, that innovation could happen in a traditional industry, and that the world was ready for change. Yet even with the pods now being tested in multiple cities, there were still many unknowns. The technology was evolving faster than most could keep up, and Tesla was outpacing its competitors by light years. But there was always the looming question: how far could they really go? The next morning, Elon called a meeting with his executive team. He knew the conversation would focus on the recent malfunction with the pods, but he also felt it was time to reflect on the bigger picture. The road that had led them here. The conference room filled quickly, with Samuel, the head of engineering, and other key leaders all taking their seats around the table. Elon stood at the front, ready to address the situation head-on. "We've got a challenge with the pod," Elon began, his voice calm yet commanding, "but we're going to fix it. We've done it before, and we'll do it again. However, there's something bigger we need to consider." The room grew quiet, and everyone turned their attention to Elon. "We've spent years trying to make the impossible happen. First with electric vehicles, then with autonomous driving, and now with these transport pods. And it's easy to lose sight of why we started all of this. We didn't just want to make money. We didn't just want to disrupt an industry. We wanted to change the world for the better." Then, the breakthrough came. Tesla unveiled a prototype of the new autonomous transport pods, sleek, electric, and designed to integrate into the existing urban landscape seamlessly. The press conference was met with a flurry of excitement and intrigue. Tesla had delivered something no one else had: a fully integrated vision of the future of transportation. The journey was far from over. The pods were still in the testing phase, and the road ahead would require Tesla to build new partnerships, secure government approvals, and develop the infrastructure necessary for mass adoption. But for the first time in months, there was a renewed sense of optimism within the company. They had faced the storm, they had navigated the conflict, and now they had a clear path forward. The world had been watching closely, waiting for Tesla to falter. But instead, Tesla had emerged stronger, more resilient, more innovative, and more determined than ever to change the world. The months that followed the press conference were a whirlwind of progress. The media buzzed with a mix of awe and skepticism, But Tesla's resilience could no longer be ignored. The pods, which had seemed like a far-off dream just a year ago, were now entering pilot programs in select cities, and early reports showed promising results. The public's perception was shifting. People began to see Tesla not just as a car company, but as a technological juggernaut, shaping the future of transportation. Elon Musk had always been a visionary, but now, more than ever, he felt the weight of his responsibility. His dream of revolutionizing not just electric vehicles, but the way the world moved, was becoming a reality. Yet, this was a double-edged sword. The success of the pods marked a monumental achievement, but it also brought new challenges. As the world's eyes were on Tesla's every move, one wrong turn, one small misstep, could lead to disaster. In the midst of all the progress, Elon found himself reflecting on the journey that had brought Tesla to this point. It had not been easy. There were times, especially in the early years, when the future of the company seemed uncertain. The near bankruptcy, the skepticism, the constant pressure from investors and critics, it had all felt like a storm he was riding without a guarantee of surviving. But through it all, one thing had kept him going: the belief that change was possible. And yet, as Tesla moved forward, Elon couldn't help but wonder, was this it? Was this the peak of what Tesla could achieve, or was there something more? Was the dream of a sustainable, autonomous future truly within reach, or was it all just one big gamble? One evening, as he sat alone in his office, Elon received a call. It was from Samuel Grant, Tesla's chief operating officer. "Hey, Elon, we need to talk. There's something we need to discuss." Elon's mind immediately went on alert. It was rare for Samuel to call him after hours unless something important had come up. He leaned back in his chair that night, reflecting on the journey, and for the first time in a long while, felt at peace. Tesla had come a long way, and no matter what came next, the company was poised to change the world in ways no one could have predicted. Tesla's success wasn't just in its products. It was in its ability to disrupt, innovate, and push past the impossible. The company had risen from the ashes more than once, each time with a new vision of the future that redefined the world's expectations. But now, as the world watched closely, Tesla faced its biggest test yet. A test that would define the future not only of Tesla but of Elon Musk's vision for a sustainable and self-driving future. The pods were working well. Tesla had solved the problems with the initial malfunction, and the prototypes were now being used in multiple cities across the U.S. The world was starting to take Tesla seriously, but there was still one major hurdle: public trust. Despite the technical breakthroughs and the success of the initial tests, there were still skeptics, people who weren't ready to trust a completely autonomous vehicle. Could Tesla truly create a system that was safe enough to replace human drivers? Was the world ready for a revolution in transportation? And, perhaps the most important question, could Tesla make the leap from innovative startup to global powerhouse without the world watching every step? To address this, Elon made a decision that would put everything on the line. He announced that Tesla would be launching an ambitious global initiative. In partnership with cities around the world, Tesla would begin an unprecedented live trial of their autonomous pods. The project would bring the pods to metropolitan areas, with Tesla's engineers and teams monitoring them in real time, fixing any issues as they arose. It would be the first step toward truly creating a seamless, worldwide transportation system powered by electric, autonomous vehicles. But this trial would not just be a demonstration of Tesla's technology. It would be the company's chance to prove that it could be trusted with something as monumental as the future of public transportation. A single mistake, a single failure in the system, could undo years of progress. He paused, looking each of them in the eyes. But change doesn't come without sacrifice. We've risked everything: our time, our resources, our reputations, all for something bigger than ourselves. And we can't stop now. The world is counting on us. Elon's words hit hard. The room was filled with a palpable energy, the kind that only came when a company was on the brink of something transformative. The stakes had always been high, but now they felt higher than ever. "We're not going to get distracted by setbacks," Elon continued, his voice firm. "We'll address this issue with the pod, and we'll make sure it never happens again. But we also need to remember that the journey is long, and the road will continue to be full of obstacles. It's not about whether we fail or succeed. It's about how we respond when things go wrong. He could see that the team was aligned, the fire of determination rekindled in their eyes. They weren't just employees. They were fellow dreamers, each with a shared goal of changing the world. The rest of the meeting focused on the technical details of addressing the pod malfunction. But by the end, Elon felt a renewed sense of confidence. Tesla was a company built on overcoming adversity, and now, more than ever, that spirit would carry them forward. Weeks passed, and the problem with the pod was quickly resolved. In fact, the new adjustments made the pod safer, more reliable, and better equipped to handle complex urban environments. The media, once skeptical, started to report more positively on Tesla's achievements. Investors who had been hesitant to back Tesla in the past began to reevaluate their positions. For Elon, this victory wasn't just about the technical fix. It was about something deeper. It was about the growth of Tesla as a company, as a symbol of human perseverance. They had faced numerous crises, from near bankruptcy to technological failures to public doubt, and every time, they had emerged stronger. Elon knew the journey wasn't over. Tesla's mission was bigger than any one product. It was a vision for a sustainable future, a future where technology wasn't something to fear but something to embrace. He understood that the road ahead would be filled with challenges, but he also understood that each challenge brought with it the potential for growth. Elon's decision to go public with the trial was met with mixed reactions. Some hailed it as the bold move that Tesla needed to break through to the next level of success. Others, however, saw it as a dangerous gamble, a chance for Tesla to implode on the world stage. Elon knew the stakes. This was no longer about a single company's success. This was about changing the world, reshaping the very way humans interacted with transportation. It was about proving that sustainability and technology could not just coexist, but thrive together. As the live trial approached, Tesla's offices were buzzing with activity. Teams worked tirelessly around the clock to ensure every detail was accounted for. The engineers were putting the final touches on the pods, while the logistics team worked to integrate the pods into real-world traffic systems. And Elon? He was everywhere. Every meeting, every brainstorming session, he was present, pushing his team to give their best, knowing that this trial would determine the fate of everything they had worked for. In the days leading up to the launch, Elon took a moment to reflect on his journey. He thought back to the early days of Tesla, those sleepless nights when he had fought to keep the company afloat, the near bankruptcy, the skeptical investors, the doubts from the public. It had all felt impossible. Yet here he was, preparing to launch the most ambitious initiative in Tesla's history. He had come a long way, but the road ahead was still full of unknowns. The trial began in 3 cities, Los Angeles, New York, and San Francisco. In each city, Tesla's autonomous pods were integrated into the transportation system, working side by side with traditional cars, buses, and trains. They weren't just operating in a controlled environment. They were on public roads, surrounded by unpredictable traffic, pedestrians, and all the complexities of real-world driving. The first few days went smoothly. The pods moved through the cities without issue, picking up passengers, navigating traffic, and seamlessly adjusting to the ebb and flow of urban life. Public reception was cautiously optimistic. News outlets praised Tesla for its boldness, but many were still waiting to see if the technology could handle the long-term demands of a fully autonomous transportation system. Then came the first real test. In Los Angeles, a pod encountered an unexpected situation, an emergency vehicle with flashing lights weaving through traffic. Tesla's system, despite being tested rigorously, wasn't prepared for this particular scenario. The pod froze, causing a momentary traffic jam. It was a small incident, but in the eyes of the public, it was a major setback. The media jumped on the story, with headlines screaming about Tesla's failure to address a simple but critical issue. Critics who had been skeptical of the company from the start were quick to say, "I told you so." Investors were nervous. The stock price dipped slightly. The live trial had been a true test, one that had challenged Tesla at its core. But through it all, Elon had stuck to his belief. The only way to change the world was to never back down from the impossible. The world was watching, and Tesla was ready for whatever came next. The Tesla autonomous pod trial had been deemed a success, at least, That was the narrative the media had adopted after Tesla's quick response to the Los Angeles incident. However, behind the scenes, the company was far from out of the woods. Elon Musk knew that every success came with its own set of unforeseen challenges, and the real test was how the company would handle the long-term pressure of managing an ambitious global initiative. Despite the public praise, Tesla's team was still under the relentless scrutiny of both the media and investors, and the stakes only seemed to get higher. The first few weeks after the successful update were a relatively quiet period. The pods ran smoothly, passengers were increasingly satisfied, and the world began to warm to the idea of autonomous vehicles. Tesla's stock price climbed steadily, and the company was beginning to make inroads into other markets, with talks to expand the pod network internationally gaining traction. But then, a new challenge arose, one that no one had expected. It started with a phone call from Tesla's head of operations, Liam Hernandez. "Elon, we've got a serious problem," Liam said, his voice tight with anxiety. "One of our major partners has suddenly pulled out of the international expansion deal. They're citing safety concerns, even after the update. And it's not just them. We're hearing rumblings from other cities, too. They're starting to question whether Tesla can handle this level of responsibility." Elon frowned. The last thing Tesla needed at this point was a ripple effect that could undermine its credibility. After everything the company had been through, the last thing they could afford was a perception of unreliability. "Who pulled out?" Elon asked, his mind already racing through potential scenarios. Liam hesitated for a moment before responding. "It's Global Transports, one of our biggest logistics partners. They were set to help us implement the pod network in Europe and Asia. Now, they're backing out, and other cities are starting to follow suit. We don't know yet if it's going to spread further, but it's already affecting our timeline." Elon watched the news unfold with a mixture of frustration and determination. It was a small problem, one that Tesla could easily fix, but it carried weight. This was the moment that would either solidify Tesla's place as the leader in autonomous transportation or shatter its public image. That night, Elon gathered his team for an emergency meeting. Everyone was on edge, and the pressure was palpable. "We can fix this," Elon said, his voice calm but firm. "The system isn't perfect, but we have the capability to improve it. We need to address this issue immediately and learn from it. We're not backing down." The engineers immediately went to work, reviewing the incident in real time, analyzing the data to understand why the system had failed to react appropriately. The problem, they found, was a gap in the decision-making algorithm. The pod had failed to recognize the flashing lights as a priority, and in its attempt to navigate the situation, it froze. Tesla had already developed a patch for the problem. In less than 24 hours, an update was pushed to every pod, correcting the flaw. By the next day, the pods were back on the road, functioning smoothly and without incident. But the damage had been done. The media was still buzzing with the story, and many people continued to question whether Tesla's autonomous system was ready for the real world. The pressure was mounting, but Elon refused to let the setbacks define the company's journey. He released a public statement the following day. It was simple, direct, and unapologetic. "Tesla is committed to safety, innovation, and progress. The incident in Los Angeles was an anomaly, but we take full responsibility. We've already addressed the issue, and our systems are now even safer and more efficient. We won't stop pushing the boundaries of what's possible. The road to the future is never without challenges, but we will continue to drive forward." Elon's statement didn't just calm fears. It reignited the spark within Tesla's employees. They knew this was just another hurdle to overcome. After all, Tesla had faced far worse challenges in the past. The next few weeks were a blur of testing, fine-tuning, and continuous improvement. As Tesla ironed out the kinks in the system, the public's opinion began to shift again. Reports started to praise the company's quick response to the incident and its commitment to transparency. The pods became smoother, faster, and even more reliable than before. By the end of the trial, Tesla had not only proven that its technology could handle the real world, it had proven that it was a company capable of learning from its mistakes and adapting in real time. "Here's what we're going to do," Elon said, his voice gaining strength. "We're going to implement a new, comprehensive testing phase, not just with the engineers, but with real-world drivers. We'll create a full transparency report for the public, so they can see exactly what we're doing and why it works. We'll also host a live demonstration, a real-time test of the pod system in one of our busiest cities. We'll show the world that Tesla can handle any situation, no matter how unpredictable. Liam looked at Elon, his expression a mix of skepticism and hope. That's a bold move. Are you sure we can pull this off in time? Elon's gaze was unshakable. We have no choice. This is the final test. If we want Tesla to be the company that changes the world, we can't afford to be second-guessing ourselves now. We're going all in. Let's get started. Over the next few days, the team worked tirelessly to implement Elon's plan. The testing phase began in earnest, with engineers monitoring every pod and fine-tuning its decision-making algorithms. Real-world drivers were hired to help simulate the unpredictable conditions of daily traffic, and Tesla's data scientists worked around the clock to run simulations of the most extreme scenarios the pods might face. But even as the technical work progressed, the pressure was mounting. Investors and partners were growing impatient, and the media were already speculating about Tesla's future. The challenge was no longer just about technology. It was about regaining the trust that had been shaken. Could Tesla prove that it was ready to be the leader in the autonomous transportation space? The deadline for the live demonstration was quickly approaching, and the team was working at a breakneck pace. Every hour felt like a race against time, and Elon found himself losing sleep once again. But he knew that this was the moment that would define everything. If Tesla could pull this off, they would prove once and for all that they were more than just a tech company. They were a global force capable of changing the world. As the day of the live demonstration drew nearer, Elon stood before the massive screens in Tesla's headquarters, watching the latest simulations. He felt the weight of the world on his shoulders, but he knew this was what they had been working toward from the very beginning. It was now or never. Elon's heart sank. The international expansion had been one of Tesla's most ambitious projects to date. Without the right partners, everything they had worked for could collapse. He took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm brewing in his chest. "We need to find out what's behind this," Elon said, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. "Meet me in my office in an hour. I'll make some calls." When Elon hung up, he sat back in his chair, thinking about how the pieces were all coming together. Tesla was no longer a small, innovative startup. It had become a juggernaut with global ambitions, and every decision now had enormous consequences. The pressure to deliver was suffocating. An hour later, Elon walked into his office to meet with Liam and several members of the leadership team. The mood was tense, and the air felt heavy with the weight of the situation. "Elon, we've been looking into the global transports pullout, and it's clear that they've got some serious concerns about the safety and the long-term viability of our system," Liam explained. "They've been getting a lot of feedback from their stakeholders, and it seems like the issue is the unpredictability of the autonomous pods when faced with unusual situations. The update helped, but they're not convinced we've addressed all the potential risks." The rest of the team nodded, and Elon could see the concern in their eyes. The question wasn't just about solving a technical issue anymore. It was about convincing the world that Tesla could be trusted to lead a revolution in transportation. Elon rubbed his eyes, exhausted by the whirlwind of events. "So, they're questioning whether we can be trusted to handle the responsibility. This isn't just about a malfunction anymore. It's about proving to the world that Tesla is a reliable partner." "Yes," Liam responded. "And they're not alone. We've heard similar concerns from a few other partners and potential investors. If we don't fix this perception, it could seriously derail everything." Elon leaned forward in his chair, his mind working at full speed. "Okay, we're going to fix this. We need a clear, actionable plan to show everyone that Tesla can handle the responsibility. And we need to do it fast." He paused for a moment, thinking about how to approach the situation. It wasn't enough to fix the technical issues. They needed to rebuild trust. They needed to show their partners, the public, and the world that Tesla wasn't just a company focused on innovation, but one that could balance that innovation with the reliability and safety expected of an industry leader. The day of the live demonstration had arrived, and Tesla was ready for the world to see its grand vision in action. For months, the company had been preparing for this moment, an unprecedented public test of the autonomous pods. This would be the culmination of everything they had worked toward. a final push to prove to the world that Tesla wasn't just a leader in electric vehicles. It was the future of transportation. Elon stood at the edge of the Tesla command center in Palo Alto, watching the bustling activity inside. Engineers and analysts were seated in front of rows of screens, monitoring real-time data from every pod participating in the test. Tesla's partners and investors were in attendance, watching intently, their eyes fixed on every update that flashed across the screen. The media was present too, with cameras poised to capture every moment of the event. The world was watching. For the past few weeks, Tesla had been running intensive tests on the pods, fine-tuning their systems to ensure that everything was in place for the demonstration. The goal was to show that Tesla's autonomous technology could not only handle typical driving conditions, but also the kinds of unpredictable, real-world situations that would push it to the limit. But today, that wasn't the only goal. Tesla needed to do more than just demonstrate the technology. It needed to restore public trust and silence its growing list of critics. Elon knew that the demonstration had to be flawless. One misstep, one glitch, could jeopardize everything they had worked for. The test was set to take place in downtown San Francisco, one of the busiest cities in the U.S. If the pods could navigate the unpredictable and chaotic streets of San Francisco, it would prove to the world that they were ready for global deployment. The stakes couldn't have been higher. Elon made his way to the stage at the front of the command center, where he would address the audience before the test began. The weight of the moment was palpable, but he kept his focus sharp. "This is it," Elon said, his voice steady as he addressed the room. "Today is not just about Tesla. Today is about proving that we can solve one of the biggest challenges of our time: autonomous transportation. This is more than just a product. This is the future. And it's a future we're creating, right here, right now." The room fell silent, every eye on Elon as he continued. "Today's demonstration will show that Tesla's autonomous pods can handle anything, every twist, turn, and unexpected challenge that the world throws at them. But most importantly, it will show that we're not just pushing technology forward. We're doing it responsibly. We've been working tirelessly to ensure that these pods are safe, efficient, and ready to meet the demands of the real world. It's time to show the world what we can do." He paused for a moment, letting his words sink in. "Let's make history." As Elon finished his speech, the countdown began on the large screens in front of the room. The demonstration was about to start. Outside the command center, a convoy of Tesla's autonomous pods lined up, ready for the test. The city streets were bustling with activity, pedestrians walking along the sidewalks, cars honking in traffic, cyclists weaving in and out of lanes. San Francisco was as unpredictable as it gets, and Tesla's pods would have to prove their worth in this chaotic environment. The first pod took off, smoothly entering the flow of traffic as the crowd watched from screens across the globe. The cameras followed the pod as it navigated the streets, avoiding obstacles, stopping at lights, and reacting to sudden changes in the traffic pattern. The engineers in the command center were monitoring every move, and Elon stood in front of the screens, watching intently, every muscle tense with anticipation. It started off flawlessly. The pod moved through the streets with ease, weaving through traffic, stopping for pedestrians, and yielding for emergency vehicles. For the first few minutes, it looked like the test would be a seamless success. But then, it happened. A cyclist appeared suddenly from an alleyway, cutting across the front of the pod at high speed. The pod hesitated for a split second, caught in a moment of indecision. There was no time to react. The cyclist slammed into the side of the pod, the sound of the collision reverberating through the room. The engineers at the command center immediately jumped into action, pulling up data screens to assess the situation. Elon's heart raced as he watched the footage. The pod had reacted as it was programmed to, by trying to slow down and minimize damage, but the result wasn't ideal. The cyclist, thankfully, wasn't seriously injured, but the optics were devastating. The media began to buzz, headlines flashing across the screen in real time. This wasn't the perfect demonstration Elon had envisioned. Liam, Tesla's head of operations, stood next to Elon, watching the scene unfold. His voice was tight. "Elon, this is bad. The media is already reporting on it. We can't afford another failure." Elon clenched his fists, his mind racing. He had been expecting challenges during the demonstration, but not something this immediate and glaring. But he couldn't let it derail everything. This wasn't the time to panic. It was time to adapt. "Don't shut it down," Elon said, his voice unwavering. "We can fix this on the fly. Let the team analyze the data and get ready for the next phase of the test. We'll address the issue, and we'll finish this demonstration." The engineers quickly analyzed the incident. They discovered that the pod had been confused by the speed and erratic movements of the cyclist, a situation that hadn't been adequately accounted for during testing. The algorithm needed refinement to handle sudden, unpredictable movements more effectively. While the engineers worked on the fix, the live feed continued to show the test unfolding. Elon knew that public perception would be heavily influenced by how the company responded to this challenge. He needed to prove that Tesla wasn't just a tech company. It was a company that could learn from its mistakes and keep pushing forward. Minutes later, the pod was back online, with the algorithm update live on all the vehicles. The test continued, and this time, the pod handled every situation flawlessly. As the day progressed, the world watched as Tesla's pods navigated the streets of San Francisco without further issues, adapting in real time to every new challenge that arose. The demonstration wasn't perfect, but in a way, that was part of the story. Tesla wasn't just showcasing flawless technology, it was showcasing its commitment to constant improvement. And that, Elon knew, was what would win the world over. By the end of the test, the public's perception had shifted. The media, who had initially seized on the incident with the cyclist, began to turn their focus toward Tesla's quick recovery and commitment to safety. The investors, seeing the company's resolve, began to rally behind Elon's vision. And the partners who had once doubted Tesla's ability to deliver, they started to take notice. The future of Tesla's autonomous pods was now more certain than ever. But Elon knew that this was only the beginning. The road ahead would continue to be filled with challenges, but he had shown the world that Tesla was ready to face them head-on. The immediate aftermath of the live demonstration left the Tesla team with mixed emotions. The incident with the cyclist had certainly shaken the public's confidence, but the way the team had recovered, swiftly addressing the issue and continuing with the demonstration, had sparked a new level of respect from those watching. But respect was one thing. Trust was another. Elon Musk paced around the command center, his mind still running on overdrive. It had been a long day. The media had quickly moved from sensational headlines about the crash to more reflective analysis of Tesla's quick response. Still, Elon knew that while the demonstration had ended on a high note, the road ahead would not be easy. He couldn't shake the nagging feeling that the company had just barely avoided a complete disaster. The moment the final pod finished the test route, Elon's phone buzzed with notifications. Emails flooded his inbox, and his team was already dissecting the data from the test. But the constant pinging only added to his anxiety. It was like trying to contain an avalanche with a single shovel. He looked over to Liam, who had been standing by his side through the entirety of the event, watching the results in real time. There was no question that Liam was visibly relieved, but there was also a hard edge to his expression. "You okay?" Elon asked, trying to gauge his head of operations mood. Liam nodded slowly. "We got through it, but I'm not going to lie, Elon, that could have been a game changer. We can't keep having close calls like this. We need to be more prepared." Elon exhaled slowly, leaning against the edge of the table. I know, but I'm also thinking we've just shown the world what we're capable of. We've not only fixed the issue, we've demonstrated resilience. That's what people care about now. We showed them we can learn, adapt, and grow." Liam didn't look convinced. "Resilience is great, but how much more do we push before we really start losing people? Investors, partners, they're all looking for consistency, not just big moments." Elon glanced around the room, catching the eyes of his engineers who were frantically analyzing data on multiple screens. They looked exhausted, but there was a palpable sense of pride among them, too. They had just pulled off a recovery that many companies would have failed to manage. "We can't rest," Elon said, his voice firm. "The key now is proving that we can consistently improve and manage the unforeseen. There's no doubt in my mind that we'll have setbacks. This isn't the last challenge we'll face. But this demonstration, with its bumps, proves one thing. Tesla isn't afraid to fail, but we will never quit trying to be better." Liam took a moment, then nodded. "I'll keep pushing the team." But we need to do something to build back the confidence of the people who were on the fence. A gesture, something bigger than just another press release. We need to show them we're not just fixing problems. We're evolving. Elon's mind turned to the possibilities. The issue wasn't just about the demonstration. It was about the long-term commitment Tesla had to prove to its partners and the world. They had shown they were resilient, but could they show that their vision wasn't just a flash of brilliance but a sustainable movement? After a moment of contemplation, Elon straightened. Liam, I have an idea. Let's bring the people who doubted us into the process. Let's offer them an inside look at what we're doing and how we're refining it. We'll give them direct access to our development and show them that they're part of the future. If they want confidence in Tesla, they're going to get it by seeing our commitment firsthand. Liam looked intrigued. Invite them in? You're thinking of a full transparency campaign? Elon's eyes gleamed. Yes, we'll make them part of the solution. We'll open our doors, allow them to participate in the process, and let them see the evolution as it happens. No more hiding behind press releases. No more second-guessing. They'll be part of the journey with us. Liam nodded slowly. That could work. We could invite a mix of investors, city officials, and media to a closed event where they see our systems in action, get first-hand feedback from our engineers, and walk through every iteration. That would show them we're not just talking. We're doing. Elon's face broke into a grin. Exactly. Transparency, trust, and involvement. We'll show them what we've built, but we'll also show them where we're going. This could be the game changer we need. The plan was set into motion immediately. In the days that followed, Tesla arranged an exclusive event for a select group of investors, partners, and industry insiders. The goal was to give them an immersive experience, an opportunity to witness Tesla's commitment to progress, transparency, and safety up close. Elon's team worked day and night to prepare for the event. Engineers tightened up the final details of the pod systems, and the public relations team crafted an entire presentation around the theme of evolution. Tesla's engineers were ready to talk about every challenge they had faced, every setback they had overcome, and how they had adapted to make the pods smarter and safer. When the event finally arrived, Elon stood in front of the group, his usual calm demeanor replaced with the urgency of a man on a mission. We've shown the world what we're capable of, he began. But now, we need to do more. We need to show that Tesla's autonomous transportation isn't just about making a vehicle go from point A to point B, it's about changing the way we think about transportation. It's about safety, efficiency, and reliability. And we're not just going to stop here. We're going to keep pushing forward. And we want you with us. Every step of the way. The attendees were clearly impressed, nodding along as they toured Tesla's state-of-the-art facilities and got up close to the autonomous pods. Engineers explained the technology in detail, taking questions from investors and media alike. Tesla's transparency, combined with the company's willingness to address its mistakes head-on, began to win back the trust it had almost lost. Elon leaned forward, his mind already racing through the possibilities. We can't just ignore it. If these allegations are true, we need to address them head-on. Transparency, again. We have nothing to hide. But if they're false, we need to expose the truth and make sure the public knows they're being misled. Liam nodded. I'll get the legal team involved immediately. We'll conduct a full internal review and gather every piece of data we've got. If there's any truth to these accusations, we'll fix it. But if it's a smear campaign, we'll hit back hard. Elon sat back, his thoughts swirling. He had built Tesla on the foundation of innovation and trust, and the idea that someone was trying to tear that down was infuriating. But this wasn't just about defending Tesla's reputation. It was about something deeper. It was about the future of transportation. If Tesla faltered now, the entire industry would follow suit, and Elon couldn't let that happen. We'll make this right, Liam. No matter what it takes, Elon said, his voice firm. For the next several days, Tesla's team worked tirelessly to investigate the claims. The legal department scoured through the data, trying to find any trace of manipulation, while engineers pored over every test report looking for inconsistencies. Elon was in constant communication with Liam, but the stress was beginning to wear on him. Despite their best efforts, they couldn't find anything that suggested deliberate wrongdoing, but the rumors continued to spread. Then, an anonymous source contacted Tesla's legal team, claiming to have leaked documents that would prove the group's accusations true. The documents appeared to show discrepancies in some of the earlier test data, including minor software errors that were flagged but not publicly disclosed. Elon sat at his desk, staring at the screen displaying the leaked files. His heart pounded as he scrolled through the documents. There were errors. Small, seemingly insignificant mistakes, but errors nonetheless. The questions that the documents raised were impossible to ignore. Had they really missed something? Had Tesla overlooked a critical flaw in the autonomous system? How did this happen? Elon muttered under his breath, rubbing his temples. These weren't just mistakes. If these were overlooked, it could mean serious consequences. Liam's voice broke through his thoughts. Elon, we need to come clean. If we try to cover this up, it will come back to haunt us. The public will never trust us again. We need to be transparent about this, just like we were with the cyclist incident. We'll fix the problem, show the world that we're committed to doing things the right way, and make sure this never happens again. Elon leaned forward, his mind already racing through the possibilities. We can't just ignore it. If these allegations are true, we need to address them head-on. Transparency, again. We have nothing to hide. But if they're false, we need to expose the truth and make sure the public knows they're being misled. Liam nodded. I'll get the legal team involved immediately. We'll conduct a full internal review and gather every piece of data we've got. If there's any truth to these accusations, we'll fix it. But if it's a smear campaign, we'll hit back hard. Elon sat back, his thoughts swirling. He had built Tesla on the foundation of innovation and trust, and the idea that someone was trying to tear that down was infuriating. But this wasn't just about defending Tesla's reputation. It was about something deeper. It was about the future of transportation. If Tesla faltered now, the entire industry would follow suit, and Elon couldn't let that happen. We'll make this right, Liam. No matter what it takes, Elon said, his voice firm. For the next several days, Tesla's team worked tirelessly to investigate the claims. The legal department scoured through the data, trying to find any trace of manipulation, while engineers pored over every test report looking for inconsistencies. Elon was in constant communication with Liam, but the stress was beginning to wear on him. Despite their best efforts, they couldn't find anything that suggested deliberate wrongdoing, but the rumors continued to spread. Then, an anonymous source contacted Tesla's legal team, claiming to have leaked documents that would prove the group's accusations true. The documents appeared to show discrepancies in some of the earlier test data, including minor software errors that were flagged but not publicly disclosed. Elon sat at his desk, staring at the screen displaying the leaked files. His heart pounded as he scrolled through the documents. There were errors. Small, seemingly insignificant mistakes, but errors nonetheless. The questions that the documents raised were impossible to ignore. Had they really missed something? Had Tesla overlooked a critical flaw in the autonomous system? How did this happen? Elon muttered under his breath, rubbing his temples. These weren't just mistakes. If these were overlooked, it could mean serious consequences. Liam's voice broke through his thoughts. Elon, we need to come clean. If we try to cover this up, it will come back to haunt us. The public will never trust us again. We need to be transparent about this, just like we were with the cyclist incident. We'll fix the problem, show the world that we're committed to doing things the right way, and make sure this never happens again. Elon's mind was a whirlwind. The decision was agonizing. He had always believed that transparency was the key to Tesla's success, but this was different. This wasn't just a technical error, it was an accusation of deceit, and the stakes were higher than ever. You're right, Elon finally said, his voice steady. We'll address it head-on. We'll own up to the mistakes, fix them, and show the world that we're committed to safety above all else. We won't let this define us. Elon and Liam called an emergency meeting with the executive team. After a long and intense discussion, it was decided that Tesla would release a public statement acknowledging the error and outlining the steps the company would take to address it. The message was clear. Tesla wasn't perfect, but it was always striving to be better. We'll release the data, the documents, and everything we found in the internal review, Elon said in the meeting. We'll be completely transparent. The world needs to know that we're not just some company trying to cover up mistakes. We're a company that will own up to our flaws and fix them. The statement was crafted carefully, outlining Tesla's commitment to safety and its proactive steps to ensure the autonomous pods met the highest standards. It was a bold move, but Elon knew it was the only way forward. The trust of Tesla's customers and investors depended on it. Within hours of the announcement, the media erupted. Some praised Tesla for its transparency, commending the company for doing the right thing. Others were more skeptical, questioning why the errors hadn't been caught earlier and what other issues might be lurking in the system. Elon knew this wouldn't be the end of the battle. The accusations would stick for a while, and Tesla's stock took a brief hit as the news continued to spread. But Elon wasn't worried about the short-term fallout. What mattered was the long-term impact. By acknowledging the issue and taking responsibility, Tesla had solidified its reputation for honesty. Now, the company had to prove that it could overcome this challenge and come out stronger on the other side. As the weeks passed, Tesla worked around the clock to implement updates to the pod software and test the system even more thoroughly than before. They fixed the bugs that had been flagged in the documents and went above and beyond to ensure the pods were safer than ever. Elon and his team remained determined, pushing through the difficult times with the belief that they could emerge from this stronger than before. The weeks following Tesla's public acknowledgement of the data discrepancies were some of the most intense of Elon Musk's career. The company had faced a significant blow to its reputation, but Elon was determined to turn the situation around. He had spent years building Tesla's image as a company unafraid of failure, one that was willing to take risks and learn from its mistakes. This was no different. But now, he had to prove it. Despite the media storm, the Tesla team continued to push forward. Engineers worked around the clock, and Elon was constantly involved, reviewing data, giving direction, and keeping everyone focused. The pressure was immense, but there was a fire in Elon that only grew brighter in moments like these. It was a defining period for Tesla, and he wasn't going to let it slip away. Then, one day, as Elon sat at his desk, going over the latest test results, a thought struck him. Maybe this wasn't just about surviving the storm. Maybe this was an opportunity to redefine the entire narrative. Why are we just reacting? He muttered to himself. We need to take control of the story. We need to show everyone what Tesla's really about. This is our chance to lead again. He quickly dialed Liam's number. Liam, get in here now, he ordered, his voice brimming with urgency. Minutes later, Liam rushed into Elon's office, his brow furrowed. What's going on, Elon? Elon leaned back in his chair, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the table. We're going to flip the script. We've been too reactive. Now it's time to take proactive control of the narrative. Let's invite the world to see our progress, our challenges, and most importantly, our triumphs. I'm thinking, a massive live demonstration, bigger than anything we've ever done. We'll show them our new safety features, the improvements we've made, and the progress we're making in real time. It's time to prove that we've learned from the past and are better for it. Liam hesitated for a moment before nodding. That's bold, but I like it. We could hold a live-streamed event, open to the public and the press, where we show exactly what went into fixing the issues with the pods, every step of the process. And we could invite some of the critics, too, make them part of the experience. Elon's eyes lit up. Exactly. We show them everything. Transparency, action, and confidence. No more hiding. And at the end of it, we announce a new initiative, one that sets the standard for autonomous vehicle safety across the industry. Liam grinned. Let's make it happen. And so, the team sprang into action. The event would take place in just a few weeks, but there was a lot of work to be done. The engineers dove deep into refining the pods, ensuring that every issue identified in the previous tests had been resolved. They implemented new safety features, such as redundant sensors, improved software algorithms, and enhanced emergency braking systems. Every part of the pod's design was scrutinized to ensure maximum safety and performance. Elon was involved in every step, providing feedback, watching test runs, and making sure the team stayed on track. He was determined to ensure that the live demonstration would not just meet expectations, it would exceed them. Meanwhile, the marketing and PR teams were working overtime to create a buzz for the event. They reached out to journalists, influencers, and even Tesla critics to ensure the event would attract as many eyes as possible. The world was watching, and Elon knew that this was his chance to prove to everyone that Tesla could not only recover from a setback, but come back stronger than ever. The day of the event arrived, and the atmosphere on Tesla's campus was electric. The team had transformed the area into a sleek, high-tech arena. The stage was set, with rows of Tesla autonomous pods lined up, ready to demonstrate their capabilities. The event would be streamed live, and Elon was about to take the stage to unveil what they had been working on for weeks. Before the event began, Elon stood backstage, pacing. His thoughts raced, but he could feel the excitement building in his chest. This was it, the moment that would either confirm Tesla's future or define it as a failed experiment. There was no middle ground. Liam appeared beside him. "You ready?" Elon stopped pacing and looked at his trusted partner. "We've worked too hard for this, Liam. It's time to show the world what we can really do." The countdown began, and Elon stepped onto the stage, his gaze sweeping over the sea of media representatives, influencers, and Tesla team members who had gathered for the live demonstration. The cameras were rolling, and millions of viewers were tuning in from all over the world. "Good afternoon," Elon began, his voice steady but filled with determination. "I'm Elon Musk, and today, you're going to see something that is more than just a demonstration. It's a declaration of our commitment to innovation, transparency, and safety. Today, we're not just talking about the future of transportation, we're showing it to you, live, as it happens." The crowd buzzed with anticipation as Elon continued. "In the past few weeks, we've faced some serious challenges. But challenges are nothing more than opportunities to grow. We've taken a hard look at our systems, identified areas where we could improve, and we've made those improvements. We've done more than fix what was broken. We've made our autonomous pods safer, smarter, and more reliable than ever before." He gestured toward the pods lined up on the stage. "What you'll see today is the result of that work. We've incorporated new features that will set the standard for autonomous vehicles in the industry. But more importantly, you'll see real-time testing of those features. You won't just hear about it, you'll see it in action." The crowd murmured in approval as Elon introduced the first test scenario, which would showcase the pod's improved emergency braking system. The pod, driven by advanced AI, was programmed to detect a sudden obstacle and automatically come to a stop in real time. The test ran smoothly, and the pod successfully avoided the obstacle, stopping just inches away. Elon's smile grew as he turned to the audience. "This is just the beginning. We've refined the algorithms, we've increased the sensors, and we've tested every aspect to ensure that safety is always the priority." The demonstration continued, showing off Tesla's new system for collision avoidance, its enhanced software for navigating complex urban environments, and the new redundant safety features that would kick in should any system fail. Every test passed without issue. The live event had a palpable sense of energy. People watched as the Tesla pods performed flawlessly, and as each success piled on top of the last, it became clear. Tesla had not just fixed the issues, it had taken the opportunity to make its systems better than before. As the demonstration wrapped up, Elon returned to the stage, a sense of pride in his eyes. "This is what it means to be a part of Tesla. We don't just settle for being good enough. We constantly push ourselves to be better. This is how we define the future of transportation, through innovation, transparency, and relentless pursuit of excellence." The crowd erupted into applause, and Elon allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The journey had been long, but this was the turning point. The world had watched as Tesla had faced its darkest moment. But now, they had seen Tesla rise from the ashes, stronger and more determined than ever. The live demonstration had been a resounding success. In the days that followed, Tesla's reputation was restored, perhaps even stronger than before. The world had witnessed the company's willingness to face its failures and learn from them. The event marked a pivotal moment not just for Tesla, but for Elon Musk himself. As the media coverage exploded, analysts and commentators praised the company for its transparency and resilience. Investors, who had once been skittish, began to regain their faith, and Tesla's stock rose sharply. But as much as Elon basked in the success of the event, something in him felt unsettled. The victory was sweet, but it wasn't the end. He knew that despite the positive reception, the real test for Tesla had yet to come. The company's vision was still far from being fully realized. and the road to true innovation was always steep and winding. That night, as Elon sat alone in his office, reflecting on the whirlwind of events, a sudden knock on the door broke his concentration. "Come in," Elon called out, his voice hoarse from hours of work. Liam entered the room, looking more serious than usual. "Elon, we need to talk." Elon raised an eyebrow. "What's going on?" Liam sat down across from him, his expression heavy. "It's about the pods. Some of the customers who've been part of the beta tests are having some issues with the new software updates. There are glitches, minor ones, but they're causing delays in deliveries." Elon's stomach sank. "How bad are we talking about?" Liam shifted in his seat. "It's not catastrophic, but it's enough that we could face another backlash if we don't address it quickly. Some of the software bugs are causing the pods to malfunction in a few rare scenarios, like when there's inclement weather. We need a fix and fast." Elon rubbed his temples. The weight of the situation hit him. It wasn't just about restoring the company's reputation, it was about maintaining it. The trust they had rebuilt could be shattered in an instant if these bugs weren't resolved. The road ahead had always been uncertain, but this latest challenge felt more personal. He wasn't just leading a company, he was guiding a revolution, and every step had consequences. "How soon can we implement a fix?" Elon asked, his mind already running through the possibilities. Liam hesitated. "We're working on it, but it will take at least a couple of weeks to fix the issues and test everything thoroughly. The problem is, we have to do it quietly. If this leaks to the press before we've got a solution, it'll be the end of the good press we just got." Elon stood up, walking over to the window. He stared out at the sprawling Tesla campus beneath him. The lights of the city glittered in the distance, but his mind was elsewhere. "We can't afford to fail now. Not after everything we've been through." The silence hung between them for a moment before Elon turned back to face Liam. "We need to make sure this gets fixed. No corners cut. No compromises. Our customers deserve better than that. And we can't let this derail everything we've worked for." Liam nodded. "I'll have the team work around the clock, but we're going to need all hands on deck. This is going to be another test, Elon." Elon didn't respond immediately. His thoughts were clouded by the weight of the responsibility on his shoulders. He had spent his life building companies from the ground up, but Tesla wasn't just another business. It was a dream, a vision to change the world. It was more than just technology. It was about creating something that would shape the future. And now, it felt as though that dream was teetering on the edge of collapse. He had faced countless setbacks before, but this one felt different. This wasn't just a problem with a product. This was a problem with trust. He could sense the eyes of the world watching, waiting for him to stumble. They wanted to see if Tesla would fall, if his vision was nothing more than a pipe dream. And Elon could feel the pressure mounting, like a weight on his chest. The next few days were a blur. The team worked tirelessly to fix the glitches in the software, testing, retesting, and making adjustments. Elon threw himself into the process, often working late into the night, reviewing the progress, making sure everything was perfect. But the more he worked, the more the burden weighed on him. It wasn't just about solving technical problems anymore. It was about proving that Tesla was more than just a company. It was a symbol of progress. During one particularly grueling session, as Elon sat in a conference room, looking over test results, his mind began to wander. He thought about the people who had believed in him from the very beginning. His team, his family, the early Tesla investors, and the customers who had taken a leap of faith. He had built something from nothing, and now, for the first time, he was beginning to wonder if he had bitten off more than he could chew. Suddenly, his phone buzzed, pulling him out of his reverie. It was a text from Kimball, his brother. "You good, bro? I know this has been tough, but remember, it's about the journey. We've been through worse. Tesla's just a part of the bigger picture. Keep pushing." Elon stared at the message, the words sinking in. It was a reminder that the challenges weren't just obstacles, they were opportunities to grow. The road to success was never easy, but it was in moments like these, when everything seemed to be falling apart, that the true measure of a person, or a company, was revealed. As the days wore on, the glitches were finally fixed. The software updates were deployed successfully, and the new pods were performing better than ever. But more than that, something had shifted inside Elon. The pressure, the exhaustion, the fear, they hadn't broken him. If anything, they had made him stronger. He had faced the abyss, and he had come out the other side, not unscathed, but wiser and more resolute. When the new pods were finally shipped to customers, the response was overwhelmingly positive. Tesla had not only survived the storm, it had emerged more resilient, more focused, and more determined than ever to change the world. Elon Musk had faced his greatest test yet, and in the end, he had passed it, not because he was perfect, but because he had the courage to face his mistakes and the strength to push forward, no matter the cost. The dust had finally settled. The initial shock of Tesla's missteps had long passed, and the company's remarkable recovery was already beginning to feel like a story for the history books. Elon Musk sat in his office, reviewing the latest reports, though his mind wasn't fully on the numbers or the metrics. He had learned something far more profound in the past few months, a lesson that would stay with him for the rest of his life. Elon had always been driven by a deep sense of purpose, by the belief that Tesla wasn't just another tech company, but a movement. But now, after facing some of the greatest challenges he had ever encountered, he had come to realize something important. It wasn't about never failing. It was about how you responded when you did. He thought back to the lowest points, the moments when he'd questioned everything, the sleepless nights, the media frenzy, the feeling that he was teetering on the edge of losing it all. But through it all, he had found something more important than success: resilience. Not just his own, but the resilience of his team, his family, and even the customers who had stood by Tesla through thick and thin. Liam walked into his office, breaking his reverie. "Hey, Elon, the team's ready for the next round of testing. We're on schedule for the final release." Elon smiled, looking up from the reports. "That's great news, Liam. Thanks to you and the team for working around the clock. I know it hasn't been easy, but it looks like we're about to see the fruits of all that hard work." Liam nodded. "We've come a long way, haven't we? There were times when I wasn't sure if we could pull this off. But here we are." Elon leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled thoughtfully. "I was just thinking about that. The failures we went through, the mistakes we made, they weren't just setbacks. They were lessons. And they taught me that we can't be afraid of failure. We have to embrace it, learn from it, and use it as fuel to keep moving forward." Liam grinned. "Sounds like something you'd say, but it's true. We've built something strong because we weren't afraid to make mistakes. We've become better because of them." Elon chuckled softly. "Exactly. And that's the key to innovation. It's not about avoiding the failures. It's about how you learn, adapt, and improve. No one gets it right on the first try. Not even the people who seem like they've got it all figured out. What matters is the courage to keep going, no matter how tough it gets." The two of them sat in silence for a moment, reflecting on the journey they had been on. It had been a roller coaster, filled with highs and lows, moments of triumph and moments of doubt. But it was that very journey that had shaped Tesla into what it was today, and what it would continue to be in the future. A knock on the door interrupted their thoughts. "Elon, the press wants to speak with you," one of the assistants said, poking her head in. "They're asking about the latest results. They're eager to hear your thoughts on how Tesla has turned things around." Elon nodded. "All right, let's make sure we're clear on the message. We've been through a lot, but this isn't just about fixing problems. It's about moving forward, embracing change, and continuing to innovate. Let's give them a story of resilience, of what Tesla really stands for." As he walked into the conference room to face the press, a sense of calm washed over him. He had been through the fire, and he had emerged stronger. This was his moment to not only reinforce the company's success, but also to reflect on everything that had gotten them to this point. The questions were predictable at first, the usual inquiries about Tesla's recovery and future plans. But then, one journalist asked a question that caught him off guard. "Elon, looking back on everything that's happened, what would you say is the most important lesson you've learned from this experience?" Elon paused, considering the question carefully. For the first time in a while, he realized that it wasn't about the tech, the cars, or even the money. It was about something far deeper. "I've learned that we have to keep our eyes on the bigger picture," he began, his voice steady. "Tesla isn't just a company. It's a vision for the future, a vision that includes everyone. We're not here just to make great cars. We're here to push the boundaries of what's possible, to solve some of the world's biggest problems. And in order to do that, we need to be resilient. We need to embrace the obstacles and the failures, because that's how we grow. That's how we move the world forward. There was a brief silence in the room, and then the journalists nodded, some scribbling notes, others exchanging glances. Elon continued, "The truth is, there will always be challenges. No one has all the answers, and there will be times when it feels like we're on the brink of failure. But it's those moments that define us. It's how we respond to adversity that makes the difference. At Tesla, we've learned to turn setbacks into stepping stones, and I think that's something everyone can take away from this." The room was quiet for a moment, and then the questions began to flow again. But Elon's mind was no longer fully engaged with the logistics of the press conference. He had spoken from the heart, and the words had resonated with him more than he realized. It was clear to him now that his role at Tesla wasn't just about leading a company. It was about inspiring others to push past their own limits, to take risks, and to never give up on their dreams. As the press conference wrapped up, Elon stepped away from the podium, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. He wasn't just the CEO of a tech company. He was part of something much bigger. The future was uncertain, and there would be many more challenges ahead. But now, more than ever, he was certain that Tesla was on the right path. They weren't just building cars, they were building a legacy. In the days that followed, Tesla's fortunes continued to rise. The new pods performed flawlessly in real-world conditions, and customers were thrilled with the improvements. The company's reputation, which had been bruised, was now stronger than ever. And as Tesla expanded into new markets, Elon's vision of a sustainable, autonomous future seemed more achievable with each passing day. But even as success followed success, Elon never lost sight of the lesson he had learned during the darkest days. That failure, while painful, was not the end. It was merely a stepping stone on the path to greatness. Tesla was no longer just about technology. It was a story of perseverance, of overcoming the odds, and of redefining what it meant to innovate. As Elon stood on the balcony of his office, looking out at the sprawling Tesla campus below, he felt an overwhelming sense of pride. They had come through the storm, not unscathed, but stronger. And the best part? They had only just begun. The months following Tesla's recovery were nothing short of transformative. The company's new trajectory was undeniable. Its stock had surged, public perception had been restored, and the innovative pods had gained a devoted following. Yet, for Elon Musk, the greatest achievement wasn't in the accolades or the rising numbers. It was the realization that his journey had shifted from mere survival to a phase of true innovation and impact. The question on his mind now was, what's next? Tesla wasn't just about electric vehicles anymore. The vision had expanded beyond cars and renewable energy. It had evolved into something more profound. Elon had always believed that the future was built on a foundation of interconnected technologies, sustainability, and a human-centered approach to progress. With the world finally taking Tesla seriously, the next big challenge was to solidify that vision and make it a reality. Sitting in his office one evening, Elon looked out over the city, his mind buzzing with possibilities. He could feel the momentum, the kind of momentum that comes only once in a lifetime. The kind that pushes people to take risks, to rethink the impossible, and to drive society forward in ways that seemed unimaginable just a few years ago. Liam walked in, holding a tablet, his usual grin spreading across his face. "Hey, Elon, I think you're going to like what I've got here." Elon raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "Go ahead. What's up?" Liam tapped the screen and projected an image on the wall. A new concept that Tesla had been developing in secret for months. It was sleek, futuristic, and unmistakably Tesla. This is the new vehicle prototype. It's not a car, not a pod. It's something entirely different. Elon leaned forward, his curiosity piqued. He studied the image, his eyes scanning every detail. The vehicle was smaller than a traditional car but had a modular, versatile design that seemed to defy conventional categorization. "What are we looking at here?" Liam smiled. "We've been working on a transportation solution that's fully autonomous, fully electric, and scalable. Think of it as a new category altogether. We're calling it the Tesla capsule. It's a vehicle, but it's also a self-contained, on-demand transportation unit. It's for cities of the future, where people don't need to own a car, but can access a personal vehicle whenever they need it. Elon's eyes lit up. The idea was revolutionary. It was the next step in the evolution of personal transportation, taking the best parts of Tesla's technology and applying them to an entirely new way of thinking about urban mobility. So, it's like an autonomous pod that people can summon when they need it? It's like the future of taxis, but way more advanced. Exactly, Liam said. The capsule will operate within smart cities, connecting to the Tesla network. People won't need to own the vehicle. They'll be able to summon one via their phone, and it'll take them wherever they want to go. It's fully electric, emissions-free, and designed to be efficient for the future of urban life. Elon sat back in his chair, his mind racing. This was big. It wasn't just about selling cars anymore. It was about reshaping the entire concept of transportation. It was about solving the urban mobility crisis, reducing congestion, and ultimately creating a cleaner, more efficient world. But what about infrastructure? Elon asked. How are we going to ensure that cities are ready for this? Liam nodded. That's where the next phase of our plan comes in. We'll need to partner with cities to develop the necessary infrastructure, charging stations, smart grids, and, most importantly, autonomous vehicle lanes. It's a long-term project, but we believe it's the next logical step in Tesla's mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Elon felt a surge of excitement. The road ahead was clear, but it wasn't going to be easy. Tesla was already at the forefront of the electric vehicle revolution, but now, they had an opportunity to define the future of transportation as a whole. This was a challenge Elon knew would test every ounce of his creativity and ambition, but it was one he was ready to embrace. The following months were a whirlwind. Elon and the Tesla team worked relentlessly to refine the capsule prototype, focusing on every detail, from its autonomous capabilities to the design of the user interface. The world had changed, and Tesla was no longer just responding to it. They were shaping it. At the same time, Elon began reaching out to city leaders and government officials, laying the groundwork for partnerships that would allow Tesla to roll out the capsule in smart cities. The challenge was immense, changing the way people thought about transportation, convincing cities to adopt this new infrastructure, and overcoming regulatory hurdles. But Elon had faced insurmountable odds before, and he knew this would be no different. It was about convincing people to believe in a future they couldn't yet see but could feel on the horizon. The media buzz surrounding the capsule grew, with people speculating about how this new innovation would change the world. The world had already seen Tesla revolutionize the car industry, but this was different. It was bigger. This was about the entire transportation ecosystem, and Elon could feel the excitement building. Still, despite the progress, Elon remained grounded. The capsule project was just one part of the bigger vision. Tesla's mission to make sustainable energy universally accessible was far from complete, and there were still hurdles ahead. But Elon's resolve had never been clearer. This was the future, and if he had to push the world to accept it, he would. One evening, after another long day of meetings and brainstorming sessions, Elon stood in front of the Tesla factory, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The road ahead was uncertain, but for the first time in a while, he felt a sense of peace. He had spent so many years fighting for his vision, pushing through challenges and setbacks, but now he was beginning to realize that all those moments had led him to this. He wasn't just building cars or software. He was building a legacy, a future where the impossible became possible. And the best part? They weren't done yet. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months. The buzz surrounding the Tesla capsule continued to grow. Elon Musk, once again, found himself at the center of a global movement, but this time, it felt different. Tesla wasn't just responding to the future anymore. They were creating it. And with each passing day, the weight of that responsibility began to sink in. The rollout of the Tesla capsule had been nothing short of a monumental success. Cities around the world had started showing interest in the project, with several even beginning the groundwork for smart city infrastructure. The demand for a new kind of transportation, one that was efficient, autonomous, and emissions-free, was higher than expected, and Tesla was at the forefront of this new revolution. But the world wasn't ready to give up on cars just yet. As much as people yearned for innovation, they still clung to the familiar. Elon knew it was a delicate balance. People loved the idea of change, but when faced with it, they often hesitated, unsure of how to take the first step. It was during one of these long nights of strategizing that Elon realized the key to moving forward wasn't just in convincing people to embrace something new. It was in showing them how this change would improve their lives in tangible ways. The capsule wasn't just about removing ownership of cars. It was about giving people back time, space, and freedom. It was about making their lives simpler and more enjoyable. One evening, as Elon sat in a meeting with city planners and engineers discussing the next phase of the capsule's deployment, his thoughts turned inward. The transformation Tesla had gone through, starting from a small startup to becoming a symbol of hope and innovation, was incredible. But he knew it wasn't just the technology that made the difference. It was the people behind it. Every engineer, every designer, every technician, and every customer who believed in the mission had played a part in Tesla's success. A few days later, Elon was standing on stage at Tesla's global conference, ready to unveil the final iteration of the Tesla capsule. The crowd was filled with journalists, tech enthusiasts, environmental advocates, and city leaders, people who had been following Tesla's every move, eager to witness the next step in the company's evolution. As the lights dimmed, Elon stepped forward, his familiar presence commanding attention. His voice resonated through the room, calm yet filled with conviction. Today, he began, we stand at the precipice of a new era, one where our transportation no longer pollutes the environment, where the lines between our cities and the vehicles we use are blurred, and where our everyday lives are transformed by the very technology we've created. He paused, allowing his words to settle in. The Tesla capsule isn't just a vehicle. It's the future of urban mobility. It's an extension of our commitment to sustainability, to autonomy, and to the dream of a world where our cities aren't just places we live, they're places we thrive. The audience erupted into applause, and the screens behind Elon illuminated with images of the capsule in motion, gliding through smart city streets, seamlessly integrating into the fabric of urban life. The vehicle was everything Elon had hoped it would be: sleek, efficient, and undeniably futuristic. But as the applause died down, Elon's tone grew more serious. This isn't just about technology. It's about our future. The world we're building isn't just for us. It's for our children, our grandchildren, and for everyone who will inherit the earth we leave behind. Every decision we make today will affect the world of tomorrow. The crowd was captivated. It wasn't just the reveal of the Tesla capsule that held their attention. It was Elon's unwavering belief in the mission. It was his vision that had driven Tesla to this point, and it was that same vision that was propelling the company into the future. Thank you, Elon concluded. But this is just the beginning. The audience stood and applauded, the energy in the room palpable. Elon stepped off the stage, feeling a quiet sense of pride. He had always known that the road to change would be long and fraught with obstacles, but in this moment, it felt as though everything had come full circle. Later that evening, as he sat on the balcony of his office, looking out at the city lights, Elon reflected on the incredible journey that had brought him here. The struggles, the triumphs, the failures, they had all played a part in shaping the man he had become and the company Tesla had grown into. He had started with a simple idea: to create a company that would accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. Along the way, that idea had evolved, just as he had. The failures had been hard, but they had made him stronger. The setbacks had been painful, but they had taught him invaluable lessons. And now, with the Tesla capsule and the smart city revolution, he was on the verge of changing the world in ways he had once only dreamed of. Elon smiled to himself, knowing that the world was watching, waiting for him to make his next move. The stakes were higher than ever, but he had never been more ready. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? Elon Musk knew this was only the beginning. The best was yet to come.